Would I be the asshole if I didn't sell my house to friends? Throwaway account. So my house is for sale. It's being sold due to my marriage unexpectedly breaking down after I found out my husband Adam had been having a year-long affair and, when caught, moved out. Adam has been a real piece of shit in the aftermath. Very justified, hostile, and mean. It's been awful. Did I mention that we have 2 kids? They are 3 and 1, and I was pregnant the entire time he cheated. I digress. The house is in my name and is operating under a private sale, and right now, there's a few parties competing for it. I'll sell it in the next 72 hours to clear our debts. Here's the kicker. His best friend, his best man, and his wife want to buy it. But they didn't tell me. They had the estate agent tell me. These are people who I've called friends for a long time, but when this affair broke out, they were sympathetic, but then vanished in the last 6 months. Just ghosted me and the children, would be cordial when I ran into them, and I would be too, but other than that, no support. Now they're in a tight race with others to buy it, and I find the entire scenario weird and deeply awkward. Why wouldn't they just call me and tell me beforehand? Why get the agent to tell me? There's better ways to go about this. They aren't bad people, just awkward. This is so shitty and emotional, but on a logical front, sell this damn house. So the offers are coming in, and they're getting pretty tight money-wise and similar in terms. I told the agent that someone needs to differentiate and make a bigger offer so that I'm not splitting hairs. I'm reluctant to sell to them as it's so weird and awkward. I feel like they're dancing on the grave a bit. I really want these other bidders I don't know to get it because I don't want to make a decision. I don't really see these friends anymore. My husband does, and I can see it for what it is, despite it being really disappointing by them. Would I be the asshole if I went with these other people if the offers and terms were practically the same? In the comments, you said to clear our debts. Whose debts? Your husband and yours? If the house is in your name, wouldn't it be better to divorce first and then sell? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but if it's also his debts, I would want to pay as little as possible. And OP replies, in my country, it's common practice to settle on assets and then divorce once that's finalized. Our shared debts. Good question. Another commenter says, milk every dollar you can out of whoever will pay and walk away. OP says, 100%. I told the agent to play them off against one another. This is for my kids and my future. Wow, these people suck. I can understand why you wouldn't want to sell to them. It's a real gut punch. However, if you refuse to sell to them, no matter what, they can paint you as the villain of the tale, which might very well give your ex an out with any remaining mutual friends and family. Well, sure, cheating's bad, but the truth is that OP's a total bitch. Just look at how she's screwing over my BFF. Make the sale strictly about who has the better offer, taking into account credit lines, cash offers, etc. Don't give your ex any ammunition to use against you. Not the asshole, but be careful. And OP says, you've clocked it. He's so morally bankrupt and such a crook, he looks for any avenue where he can pin something on me. It's wild to watch, so your suggestion isn't outrageous. Go with the best offer, but do not insult this couple along the way. If the other couple's financing falls through, you may need to go back and sell it to your former friends. And OP says, I hadn't thought about this. Even though I wasn't, and am not about to, go on a public vendetta, because it's not my style, I have thought that I just need to be civil, not give them much and just lean into let them. I'm with that one too. This is strictly business, nothing personal. He has poisoned everyone that he can against you by the sounds of it, or he will, because as you say, he's morally bankrupt and such a crook and will look for any avenue where he can pin something on you. It's a really tough situation to be in, believe you me. Those people are not easy to deal with. All you can do is pray that there isn't a bunch of parental alienation thrown in the mix. Other than that, good luck, stand your ground with this one, and make sure the friends, quote-unquote, know that this is just strictly business. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. I got a high offer. It's close to $3 million, and it's from my ex's best friend and his wife. Fine. Obviously awkward and uncomfortable as hell, but fine, that's an incredible price and more money than I dreamed of this house fetching. It clears our mortgages and there's cash left over. The other buyers walk. I tell the agent, yes, sold. Let me know when the signed contracts come through. But I don't get a contract. The agent and I are on the phone all the time. He is communicating with me around the clock, and it's reassuring, but I tell him that I have a bad feeling. Why don't I have a contract? He tells me it's all in hand. They're finalizing some smaller details, it'll come through shortly, and that's when the calls and messages start. The husband, let's call him Paul, is trying to reach out. He wants to speak. I avoid his calls and tell him that I'm busy with the kids. Any questions regarding the sale, direct through to agent. I'm ready to sign. Paul says, no concerns commercially. We want to check if you're okay. Call me. My agent says, you're right to have a bad feeling. They won't sign until you say you're okay with this sale. He says in 20 years of real estate, he's never heard of such a thing. I tell the agent that this is emotional blackmail. He says he's tried everything to convince them, but they insist on me saying it's okay. I feel shaky and sick. It's at this point that I very much see that they are having a crisis of conscience. They've suddenly realized the optics aren't great around this. They know this will invite a lot of judgment, and when it comes, they need to have some good spin on it. I can picture them saying, how did OP feel about it? She was fine. Well, she was just so relieved that another family was moving into it. Naturally, we checked in on her. I find all of this so gross. So I'm over a barrel. I'm about to lose $3 million if I don't tell them what they want to hear. It's too risky to call their bluff. I can't believe they let it get to this point and then throw this emotional condition into a commercial transaction. So I tell them what they want to hear only via text, so I don't have to speak to them. This forced message apologizes that I've been avoiding their calls as I have been overwhelmed with selling the house, and I'm cool with it. I feel grubby. I don't lie, I really don't, but this is for my children. I send the text, and within an hour, my inbox gets the contract. I sign it. I receive a text from each of them thanking me and that my children and I are important to them, and they would never have signed unless I was okay with it. Now I'm waiting for the cooling off period to pass. Settlement isn't for 4 months. If they bail between now and then, and of course they could, they would forfeit their $500,000 deposit. In the comments, I'm sure they'll find some way to rationalize making you the villain even if you try your best to not give them anything. People will always find ways to confirm their own beliefs. Don't base your decision on what they might say. OP says, they've bought the house, but even though I kept my distance, they kept calling me for my blessing. I find it all really, really shitty and inappropriate. It's a business deal. Don't make it an emotional one. I don't see the point of wanting her to say that it's okay to buy the house. Like, if she's accepting your offer, then obviously she's okay with it. I would understand if OP is being pressured to sell by an abusive spouse and the rich relatives wanted to buy it to keep it in the family and sentimental reasons, but this doesn't feel like that sort of story. She's paranoid. She probably thinks that her cheating husband is behind this somehow. She's not paranoid. This couple does not give a damn about her or the kids. OP hit the nail on the head when she said they had an oh shit moment and realized the optics. Without her direct confirmation that she's happy to sell them the house, they look like gravediggers. Now they look like saviors, but can still freely support the cheater because we gave her $3 million. It's shitty behavior, but I could tolerate some shitty self-soothing from ex-friends for $3 million. On the other hand, if the difference to the next best offer is under $500,000 or thereabouts, it also wouldn't be out of the question to respond once under contract that they suck, their emotional manipulation sucks, and they can now close with full awareness or be out $500K. Their choice. I feel for OP. Glad OP is focusing on the future with also the kiddos. Hope OP can get the money when things settle and walk clear with the kiddos. Let those former friends deal with the court of public opinion, and hopefully the ex-husband does not cause issues in general. Yeah, shitty situation to be caught up in, and I really feel for OP in this one. Like you, rational student. Maybe after that 4-month cooling off period, dissipates a bit, then she can let loose and be like, I hate you guys. I hate your emotional manipulation. What you're doing was wrong, and it made me feel bad, and I hope that people judge you for it. If she wants to do that, they'd be locked in by that point. And it's very obvious why there's a 4-month cooling off period, because they know how OP feels. Ah, well, what can you do? Thanks for the story, OP. Good luck for the next 4 months. Our next post is by user OKCode6742, titled, My 41 female, partner of 2 years, 44 male, is adamant I am cheating on him. I am not. Help? Just a bit of context. We've been together for 2 years. He has 2 kids. I have 1 kid. Irrelevant to this story. We live apart. I bought a home a few months before we started dating, and are together only when our kids are with their other parent. He's the guy that's treated me the best out of all of my relationships, and I love him dearly. I'm a chronically anxious and stressed person, and he is absolutely my peace. But today, he sucker punched me with this. He's absolutely convinced that I'm cheating on him. The reason he suddenly started thinking this is because 2 days ago, I wanted to show him something on my phone. There was an irrelevant tab open, my Hotmail account that's full of spam. I had this account for the past 24 years, but mostly use my Gmail. He saw, quickly in passing, that there was a folder with a man's name. Let's say James. I don't remember the purpose of this folder. It's empty, and I haven't touched it in 15 years. I have no idea why it exists. It was probably useful at some point, but no idea. Well, now he's convinced that 1, I closed the tab too quick, 2, I was acting weird and nervous and suspicious, and 3, this means I've cheated or I am actively cheating. That's his perspective. Now onto the actual truth. I am absolutely not cheating on him. He's the man of my dreams, the love of my life, and I have never given him a reason to even suspect I'm cheating. I spend 1 entire week with him at his place, never hid my phone or anything like that. When I'm at my house, it means I'm with my kiddo, and my time is 100% devoted to her. I also work a lot. There is not a single second in my life where I would have the time to devote to any other person, even through email. I spend my downtime at home being with my kiddo and the cats watching YouTube videos. I send him a lot of pictures of me chilling with my cats as well, and we have a constant communication going. I'm very chatty through text. Anyways, at first, I was super pissed and also confused, because why on earth would you not trust me? What is happening? No matter what I say, he says that I don't make any sense whatsoever, and he's just adding 1 + 1. And to him, the answer is 2. I keep telling him that he's the one not making any sense. We're back and forth on the texting. He doesn't even want to speak over the phone or come over to talk about it. I've sent him numerous screenshots of my email with unopened emails that go back more than a year. I've sent screenshots of me typing the keyword James into the email and nothing coming up. I've shown him the completely empty sent folder, which to me is weird. I've sent numerous emails over the years. Why is it empty? And I've also given him the login and password so that he can look for himself. I've accumulated a lot of junk in that email over the many years that I've had it, but I rarely use it now. It's just a receptacle of all of my Amazon orders, my McDonald's app receipts, and various spam emails. I'm pissed that he doesn't trust me. He says he needs time to think. I'm stuck in a loop of pissed, confused, and sad. What's going on? Help. In the comments, Olivia Prestine says, is this incredibly out of character for him, or has he always been a bit jealous and suspicious? Could he be the one cheating and projecting? OP replies, this is wildly out of character for him. I'm unsure if he would be projecting his own cheating, but anything is possible. I'd hope not. I don't believe so. He's high libido, and we have sex daily, when we're together, which is every other week, except when one of us is sick. I give him everything he needs in that department, and all the other departments as well. We take good care of each other typically. Usually when people get paranoid out of nowhere, it could be because they're doing what they're paranoid of you doing, or at the very least, are being dishonest about something that they are doing. You said two interesting things. You don't know why the James folder exists, and the sent folder is empty. These things don't happen by themselves. Think carefully if someone else has access to your email. My advice is to check your email access and change your password. If you want to avoid aggravating the conflict, you can give him the new password so he can continue to have access. Someone is trying to create problems for you. Oh my god, this. So my ex-partner dabbled in the psychic world, used to run psychic classes, etc. After we broke up and I started seeing someone else, I received this random text from my ex saying she knew that I had moved on and that she hoped the new girl that I was with enjoyed the movie. I was blown away because I'd literally, the day before, hired a DVD at a local video store. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. She actually is psychic. Turns out, she reached out to my ex knowing full well she had access to my emails, and got her to snoop. I didn't realize my ex even had access to my emails anymore, but it was the exact same scenario as yours. It was my old MSN email address that I've had for 25 years, so I didn't even think of my ex from like 7 years ago. Yeah, I think that's the most likely case here as well. It does sound like he or someone else is accessing your emails and causing this drama. To me, that's the most likely scenario. Because there is absolutely no way this sent email folder cleared itself out. That does not happen. Something fishy is going on, and all signs point to he's the one causing it. No evidence, of course, that's just my gut feeling. Not the arsehole. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. So, it did not end well. After 48 hours of back and forth through text, because he refused to even speak to me over the phone or face-to-face, and me giving him my password so he can go check for himself that nothing was fucky, he still wouldn't back down. At this point, his behavior was concerning, and I thought he may have a mental episode going on. It was getting too much. He was texting me at all hours of the night, trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense in the first place. So I blocked him. When he realized that, he sent me emails at my work email asking me to check my Hotmail, which had nothing different in it. When I blocked his email, he decided to message my best friend and telling her that if I can't talk to her, I'll go through you instead. My friend has literally nothing to do whatsoever with this whole thing. She never replied and is sticking with me because she's also seeing how crazy he's acting. So I thought that was that. Yesterday at work, I was visibly sad and distressed, and my whole team hugged me, offered support, and I had lunch with my other good friend and colleague. So the day goes by, and I get off work at 4. I'm walking to my car in the parking lot, flanked by 2 colleagues, and I'm kind of explaining the whole story. They go to one of the girls' cars because they carpool. I walk towards my own car, which is parked 2 rows away. I hear a loud man's voice behind me, and I turned around, and it's him. He's walking very quickly towards me and still talking nonsense about emails. I hold my hand up and say, I'm not doing this with you right now, all the while calculating whether I'm safe to go to my car. He was screaming at me that I was a whore and a slut. I have never seen him like this before at all. A little energy pushed me to turn around and go to my colleague's car. At this point, I'm shaking and scared. I enter her car and I start hyperventilating. They're like, we'll drive you home. He was about 6 feet from the car, with hate in his eyes, motioning me to get out of the car. We drove off. I kept apologizing to them, crying and looking behind us the whole trip to make sure that he wasn't following. When I came home, my mother was there. I broke down and she called the cops. A nice officer told me over the phone that I got nothing else going on right now. You're my priority, and I'm coming to you as soon as I can. He came to my home, took my deposition, was extremely patient and understanding, explained everything that he was going to do after. My ex was placed under arrest for criminal harassment with certain conditions to follow. Not sure about the legal terms here, but they didn't handcuff him or take him to jail. It was just a verbal thing, and he'll probably be summoned in court at a later date. I have a good network of people who care, and I believe that I'm safe. Thanks, everyone. Edit. I just had a 2-hour conversation with his exes, let's call her Jess, not the mother of his kids, but the girl that he dated between the kids' mother and me. A very interesting conversation. She has lived exactly the same situation as me, minus the calling the cops. She told me he was ultra controlling, physically and verbally abusive to his 2 sons, a bad drug habit, an unhealthy and borderline inappropriate relationship with the mother of his children, and he was psychologically and sexually abusive towards Jess. She told me he used to put her on a pedestal, same as me, but he had a lot of behavior problems that I've noticed but chose to ignore just because I loved him so much. I hope he gets the help he needs. In the comments, Reverend Vader says, "The one piece of advice I will offer, people like this often ignore the police because they are no longer living in our reality. Been there. Just because they have mental health issues, clearly, it doesn't mean that you have to feel 1 ounce of sympathy or guilt because whatever is going on. It's destroyed any chance of them being allowed in your life anymore. You may well get guilt and sympathy pangs, and you should grab them by the collar and throw them out on their ass the moment they enter your head. The only way to mentally deal with stalky exes is to literally stop caring about them at all, as then the only decisions you will make will be around your own safety." OP replies, "Thank you. I needed to hear this. I'm angry at him, but sometimes during the day, I have small bouts of thoughts like, did I overreact? Am I being too harsh with having him arrested? And I have huge regrets about it. But then I realize, hey, the actual officer of the law told me that he had enough motive to literally arrest him, so I'm doing the right thing." Struan's Noble House says, "But knowing my ex, that's just a facade and he's probably absolutely boiling with rage inside. Can you talk about this a little more? In your OP, you describe him only using positive traits. But if you know that he's probably absolutely boiling with rage inside, that speaks to you knowing he has a temper. I'm not asking to be snarky, but it may be helpful to see if his behavior is not as out of character as you initially thought." And OP replies, "I understand what you mean. Yes, he did have a temper, but never ever directed at me personally. Usually, he would be mad at the mother of his children for mishandling a situation regarding the kids, and would go on a rant about how much of a see you next Tuesday she is. But towards me, he's the sweetest guy there ever was. I guess I didn't think that it would happen to me, but isn't that how it usually goes? Never thought I'd be on the receiving end of it." Yikes. If your partner acts disrespectful or abusive to other people, it's a huge red flag. It just means they haven't had the opportunity to direct that behavior towards you. Sure enough, in the end, their mask always comes off. Yup, the mask slipped. A lot of people don't know that's a red flag. They feel special. I'm the only one. It doesn't quite connect until it's gone too far that it's temporary and they're only being nice to you until they get what they want. Popular media, especially older stuff, really doesn't help with that either. It really hits the romantic angry loner loves you drum. That said, I doubt he's mentally ill. He reads to me like a standard abusive asshole. My boyfriend slammed on the brakes so hard that I was thrown into the locked seatbelt in response to me commenting on his driving. How to address. My 26 female, boyfriend 28 male of 3.5 years and I were driving down a main road towards a red light. He was accelerating into the red light, so I said, "Why are you accelerating? It's red." In response to this comment, he slammed on the brakes so hard that the car screeched and I was thrown forward. The locked seatbelt caught me. I was not injured by this, but it did scare me. Afterwards, when I spoke to him about it, he said that I made him really mad with my driving comment, especially since I had told him not to comment on my own driving the day before, and that we should agree not to comment on each other's driving. I don't think that's totally unreasonable, but I also don't think that his act of slamming on the brakes was appropriate. I'm concerned that he thinks that it was appropriate. How to address this with him? In the comments, BadKnees24 says, "Dating is an audition for the rest of your life. You're not locked in here. He proved that his immediate and thoughtless reaction when he's angry with you is to punish you. And who cares if you get hurt? Take this information and use it wisely." And if your car got rear-ended because of his actions, it's your problem, not his. There's no way that I'm letting someone drive who is so overly emotional that they're going to cause an accident because I tell them that the light is red. I don't even understand why he was so mad. Was he planning on just running the red light and he was mad because she stopped him? Or did he not see the red light and he was mad because it embarrassed him when she told him? Either way, that's a dangerous man. Aussie Alter Ego says, his immediate response to a criticism from you was to physically punish you. He did it deliberately and would do it again. He doesn't see that there is anything wrong with his reaction. Think long and hard about if this is the sort of relationship that you want to be in, because you can't change him. He would rather put your life at risk than be wrong. I dated a guy who did stuff like this. If he was angry, he would drive too fast, take curves too tight, slam on the brakes, etc. It was a manual, so it was really easy to jerk around. He did it because he wanted to hurt me and scare me. It became pretty emblematic of how he handled his anger and frustration. He was emotionally immature and never got better. While 3.5 years is a fairly good chunk of time to invest into someone, you're not tied to them for life and you shouldn't fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. It is okay to break up with him over this. Even if this is one-off behavior, this is escalation. This is abuse. Putting your car at risk and putting both of your lives at risk for a nothing burger is not acceptable. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells with your partner, and you shouldn't have to walk on eggshells to avoid them endangering your life. That's not okay, and he's a piece of shit for doing that. A psychotic piece of shit. He has an issue with expressing his anger in a healthy way. He put you guys in danger. What does it matter if you made him mad? Does making someone mad give them full permission to put your life at danger and be an idiot? No, absolutely not. Back up to the post, there is an edit. Thanks to everyone for your comments. I don't think I can respond to all of it at this stage, but I'll try and answer some of the questions here. The car is my car. I own it, but I let him drive it. I usually push back on letting him drive it at all when I'm with him because I think he doesn't treat the car as well as I would like. The comments from him on my driving are about me driving too slow and hesitating. I was in a scary car accident a few years ago, and I've been a very nervous and careful driver since then. I had asked him to stop commenting on my driving because I felt like he was nagging me all day about it. The specific instance where I said to stop was because I was hesitating at the traffic circle and was giving too much space for people to go through ahead of me. The comment that caused him to hit the brakes was my first comment of the car ride. We had literally just gotten in the car, and it was the first light. Still, we had had some tension and arguments that week leading up to it about other things, and I think he was a little annoyed with me already when we got in the car. I won't pretend that I've not made him mad and could have tried harder to avoid that, but I felt that the reaction in slamming the brakes was very extreme. I hear what you're all saying. This confirms what I think I already knew the brake slamming was about. It's hard to imagine a situation where that can be seen as reasonable or safe. He has never done anything else physical with me aside from the car incident, though he does have an explosive temper. I've seen him get physical with other things. He's punched a hole in our wall once over a video game, and he smacks cars when we're out running, and he sees cars not stop properly at lights. I would say that he hasn't lost his temper with me much, but when he has, I found it a bit freaky because he adopts a really intense, teeth-clenched, fists-clenched sort of thing. He's slammed a fist on the table a few times. Again, never has actually done anything physical. Also, to clarify, he was not slamming on the brakes because of the red light. We were still 50-ish feet from the line where you stop for the light. It was definitely in response to my comment, and he said that it was afterwards when he explained that he slammed on the brakes because he was mad. I will look into the resources everyone sent and think about this. I'm feeling like I need to end it, particularly after reading what everyone has said. Thank you. I appreciate all your thoughts and advice. And now, onto the update, 1 week later. Thank you to everyone who commented. It was a little rough being told by literally hundreds of people how bad of a situation this was. I think it was the wake-up call that I needed though. I was having a really hard time seeing the situation clearly. I knew his behavior was wrong, but I didn't have the language for what I was experiencing and didn't know what to do. Well, since the post, I filled in some friends and relatives on the situation. Everyone agreed that his behavior was completely unacceptable. Everyone said he either needed some serious therapy and anger management, or we needed to break up. On Friday, I tried to ask him about the anger issues to see if he may be willing to seek help for it. He was extremely dismissive of it all. He told me that I was blowing things out of proportion, and even laughed at me when I suggested his aggression was a little scary. That was the last straw for me. Last night, I told him that I thought we should break up. What followed was an agonizing and painful 2 hours of crying and holding each other. He pleaded with me to stay, promised that he would be better for me, asked for therapy. Basically everything that I've been wanting to hear from him for months, if not years. I couldn't trust it though. I ended up taking my dog and going to a hotel, where I'll be for a couple of days while we think about logistics of breaking up. It has been so incredibly hard, but I'm feeling like I made the right decision. Several people expressed concern for me in my original post, so I wanted to update you all and let you know that I'm okay and that I left. I'm not able to completely go no contact currently because of our shared living situation and our dog, but I'm taking steps to break away. Thank you again to everyone for the feedback and affirmation. In the comments, Otaku-san says, he was only willing to change after you broke up with him. If you had stayed, he would have been a little bit better for a little while and then gone back to the way that he was. You made the right choice. She literally asked him without any strings attached, and he laughed at her. That was his authentic reaction, and if he had put in 1 to 2 months of effort if she stayed, he would have reverted back to his authentic self. If someone doesn't want to change, then they won't. I'm proud of you for choosing to put your and your dog's safety first. May the next step of your journey be as pleasant and healing as possible. I hope you've got your important documents with you. Everything else may need to be written off as a loss. At the very least, see if you can get your friends to accompany you to collect the rest of your stuff, or even handle the handoff for you. Or consider calling the non-emergency police hotline to see if someone can come with you. Glad you're out though. Now stay that way. And OP says, thank you. I did go grab my documents. I do hope that things will be okay when I go back, but better to be safe for sure. Edits, go back to sort out our shared things. I will reach out to friends to come with me. Yeah, those very much did sound like crocodile tears. Like yeah, as the previous commenter said, he laughed when you told him that he needs to change. He enjoys knowing that he scares you. Like, that's terrible. That is not an acceptable thing for him to do. Take the advice of everyone here and keep yourself as safe as possible. Oh my god. They always say the most dangerous time is when you're leaving, so take that to heart as well. All the best, OP. Thank you for the story, and good luck going forward with everything. Our next post is by user BudgetJaguar1990, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she wants to repurpose my wedding dress? I, 28 female, got married last year in a small but beautiful ceremony. My husband and I spent months planning every detail, and the highlight for me was my wedding dress. I saved up for years to buy this dress. It was my dream dress. It's this beautiful lace, A-line gown with intricate beadwork and a long train. I felt like a princess and still get emotional just thinking about it. Fast forward to now, my sister, 26 female, is engaged, and her wedding is coming up in 6 months. She recently came over to our place to chat about wedding plans. At one point, she casually mentioned that she would love to borrow my dress. She thinks it'd be cute to repurpose it, maybe by shortening the skirt or even dyeing it a different color so that it's unique to her. I was taken aback. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with her altering my dress, especially since it has a lot of sentimental value to me. She got upset and said that I was being selfish because she wanted to save money on her wedding and family should support each other. When I stood my ground, she accused me of not caring about her big day and stormed out. My parents later called me and said that I was breaking her heart by refusing to share. They said that since I'm married and am done with the dress, it shouldn't be a big deal. But it is a big deal to me. I want to keep my dress as it is. They suggested that I just let her have her way to avoid family drama, but honestly, I feel like it's my dress and my decision. Now my sister says that she won't feel comfortable with me at her wedding unless I show my support by letting her use the dress. I don't want to miss her wedding, but I also don't want to give in to something that I'm not comfortable with. Am I the asshole for refusing to let her repurpose my wedding dress and considering not attending the wedding? In the comments, Porky McRib says, "Not the asshole. You don't just get to decide to claim somebody else's sentimental property, let alone decide to hack it up and change colors. I would refuse to go under any circumstances. Also, no one's allowed to dictate what is or isn't a big deal to you. That pisses me off so much." OP, I'm guessing your golden child sister has always bullied you and enlisted your parents to back up her manipulative behavior. You are married now, and it's time to stop being a doormat to your former family. Former, because you and your husband are a family now, and you two come first. You have a right to refuse and tell your cheap-ass sister to buy her own dress. And book a romantic weekend away with your husband for the date of the wedding. Your sister doesn't care about you anyway, only getting what she wants. Stand in front of a mirror and practice saying no with a smile. It is very freeing. Honestly, I'd book the weekend away right now. If sister changes her mind, she can just tell her she already had plans for that weekend and be done with it. And bring the dress with you. Vow renewal in the dress, lots of photos, post them. Just saying. In our culture, where siblings are even more close, you still don't share your wedding dresses even if you are poor and can't afford. You'd rather buy a cheap one than expect one from a former bride. Not the asshole. Your sister is being selfish, and you need to stand your ground. If she loved you, she wouldn't blackmail you and put in conditions. Not the asshole. Wedding dresses are incredibly important, OP, and, it's unreasonable for her to demand to alter it or take it from you just so that she can save money. The emotional blackmailing being like, give it over or don't even come to my wedding, that's not cool, that is not on. It's sad that your entire family stands behind the golden child, but yeah, that's just people sometimes. Sometimes people just suck, huh? They see inequality in front of their face and they choose to allow it to continue when they have the power to do something about it. I would say this should be a case of not your circus, not your monkeys. Unfortunately, they currently are your monkeys, but you can decide to walk away from the circus. So I urge you to do that. Not the asshole. And now, onto the update 3 months later. Well, folks, buckle up because this situation went from a soap opera to a full-blown telenovela. So after my last post, I took everyone's advice and locked my dress away in a safe place. My sister continued guilt-tripping me. My parents doubled down on calling me selfish, and I continued standing my ground. Then, a week ago, the dress went missing. My childhood spidey senses tingled, and sure enough, my mum accidentally let it slip that my sister had borrowed it. Borrowed, as in stole. I was furious. I immediately drove to my parents' house, and there it was. My effin' dream dress, laid out on the dining table like some sort of sacrificial lamb, with fabric samples and scissors nearby. I lost it. I grabbed the dress, stormed out, and on my way home, I got a text from my sister. "If you take that dress, don't bother coming to my wedding." Oh, game on. I went home, poured myself a big glass of wine, and started thinking. Then, like a vengeful rom-com protagonist, I had the most petty, most diabolical idea ever. I booked a spa weekend for my husband and me on the same day as her wedding. Not just any spa, a luxury, 5-star, champagne-filled getaway. And then I posted about it on social media with the caption, "So grateful to be spending this weekend with the love of my life, celebrating the best decision I ever made, my wedding. Wishing everyone a day as joyful as ours was." She went ballistic, blowing up my phone, screaming in texts, calling me a jealous, bitter bitch for ruining her big day. Our parents begged me to apologize, saying my sister was inconsolable, but I told them, "Oh, so now it's a big deal when someone's special moment is ruined?" Funny how that works. And let me tell you, I've never sipped mimosas more victoriously than I ever did that weekend. Now, my sister still isn't talking to me. My parents are disappointed, and I'm still in possession of my wedding dress. And honestly, I've never been happier. Not the asshole, and I regret nothing. Unexposed is by user WideTrip8392, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for refusing to talk to my ex after everything that happened? I, 34 male, am struggling with whether I'm in the wrong for refusing to talk to my ex Sarah, 29 female, not her real name. There is a lot of history here, and I'll do my best to explain everything clearly. In mid-2022, I met Sarah at work, and we hit it off immediately. I fell for her quickly, and it didn't take long before we started dating. However, early in our relationship, Sarah broke up with me over something minor. And to make matters worse, she made a scene in front of everyone at work. I was devastated, but didn't want to leave my job at first. Eventually, I realized I still had feelings for her, and seeing her every day became too painful. That's when I decided to quit and find a new job. We lived close to each other, so we bumped into each other frequently over the next few months. We started talking again, but even though I still had feelings for her, I couldn't bring myself to consider getting back together. What she had done had hurt me deeply. After a couple of months, she told me she regretted breaking up with me over something so minor. She admitted that doing it in front of everyone was wrong and that she had been thinking about it ever since. She seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could see that she meant it. Feeling that her apology was sincere, I asked if she wanted to give our relationship another try. She agreed, and by early 2023, we were officially back together. 1 year later, things were going great. We talked about marriage and building a future together, which made me feel ready to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal and started working extra hours to save for a house so that we could marry not long after. I didn't tell her why I was working so much because I wanted it to be a complete surprise. But then out of nowhere, she asked for a break. I was blindsided, and when I asked why, she refused to explain. Around the same time, I noticed she had been talking non-stop about a new guy at her workplace, but suddenly, she stopped mentioning him altogether, which made me suspicious. Confused and hurt, I reached out to one of my close friends, Emily, not her real name, who, along with her boyfriend, still worked at the same place as Sarah. I vented to Emily about what was going on and asked if she knew anything. She said she didn't because she worked in a different department, but she promised to ask around. A few days later, Emily got back to me. She told me that Sarah had been feeling like I was distant lately, especially with me working extra hours and not going out much. Emily said some of Sarah's colleagues had been encouraging her to take a break, claiming that I wasn't treating her well and wasn't as invested in the relationship. On top of that, they were trying to match her up with a new guy at work, saying they would make a better pair. I told Emily about my plans to propose and buy a house for Sarah and I. That was the reason that I'd been working so much. I wanted to surprise her with something big. After about 2 weeks, Sarah called me and asked to meet up. I agreed, but I told her up front that I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we could discuss anything else. She brought up how distant I had seemed, saying that it made her feel like I wasn't as invested in the relationship anymore. I told her that if she had just talked to me about it, she would have known that there was a reason for my behavior, but now it didn't matter anymore. Then she mentioned the new guy at her workplace. I said his name before she could, and she looked surprised, asking me how I knew. I told her I wasn't an idiot. I'd noticed how she suddenly stopped talking about him after bringing him up all the time. She swore that she had never cheated on me. I replied that looking for someone better at the first sign of trouble could be considered cheating by some. At that point, I told her that I didn't want to hear whatever else she had to say. Whether or not she wanted to get back together didn't matter. I was breaking up with her regardless. The breakup deeply hurt me. I couldn't bear staying in the same place, so I asked my company for a transfer and used the money that I'd saved for the proposal to start over in a new city. While talking to Emily, the friend that I had vented to before, she apologized to me. She admitted that she slipped up and told Sarah about my plans to propose and to buy a house. Emily said Sarah broke down crying after hearing that. I appreciated Emily's honesty, but it didn't change what had happened. By mid-December last year, I returned to my hometown to spend Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to organize a party to get everyone together, since many of us, myself included, had moved away and were only visiting for the holidays. Sarah was invited too. We barely interacted that night, just a quick hi in passing. At one point, I glanced at her and saw her smiling while chatting with a group of women. That smile brought back so many memories. I realized that seeing her smile still made me feel the same way that I did the first time I saw it. I thought to myself, how screwed up am I that I still feel this way? Despite those lingering feelings, I was still sad and deeply hurt by how things had ended. Looking back, I also started to blame myself. I should have paid more attention to how she was feeling. I could have told her about the extra work and why I was doing it. Maybe things would have turned out differently. Later that evening, one of my friends mentioned that Sarah's relationship with the guy from her work had only lasted a couple of months. After the holidays, I planned to return to the city where I now lived. My vacation ended on January 6th, so I decided to leave on Friday. That way, I would have Saturday to sort everything out at home and to prepare for the week ahead, with Sunday to relax before going back to work. Before I left, one of my friends from back home called me. He said he had a favor to ask on behalf of someone else and warned me that I wouldn't like it. I could already feel my stomach sinking. Then he told me that it was Sarah. She was moving to the same city where I lived to work at her relative's company, and she needed a ride. And he asked if I could take her. I didn't even think about it before I said no. The idea of being stuck in a car with her for hours was too much to bear. It would have been painfully awkward, just like the party, and I wasn't ready to put myself through that. He told me that Sarah and I needed to talk, but I wasn't having any of it. I went back home, and last week, I went for a run and stopped to rest a little in a park when I heard a familiar voice say, "Hi," and it was Sarah. She tried to start a conversation by asking how I was and mentioning that we didn't get a chance to talk at the party, but I cut her off, saying that I didn't want to talk to her. She told me not to be like that we needed to have a conversation, but I said no. She asked how I could still resent her after almost a year and everything that we had been through. But I told her that it wasn't resentment. I was very honest. I told her that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, and that is why I couldn't talk to her. She said that was exactly why we needed to talk. I didn't see the point though, and I just walked away. Since then, Sarah has tried to approach me twice more, and I've shut her down both times. Some of my friends think that I'm being too harsh and that I should talk to her for closure. Others say that it's not okay to torture her over what happened forever. But that's not what this is about. I don't have any resentment or negative feelings towards her anymore. I even recognize now that I share some of the blame. But it still hurts. I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that never fully healed. So am I the asshole for refusing to talk to her? In the comments, UsedAd507 says, "Some people might say that you need closure, but it seems like you've already processed a lot of the situation, and talking to her could just bring up more pain. You don't owe her anything, especially when it's affecting your well-being. You've already made it clear how you feel, and you are setting boundaries, which is important for healing." OP says, "That's what I think, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm not so sure." The idea of needing to talk to get closure is bullshit. You can get closure on your own, or with a therapist. This is not worth it. Additional information from OP after reading comments. Thank you all for your advice. I just want to explain one thing better. My friends are not calling me or messaging me saying that I should talk to her. That's just the opinion of some of them when the subject was brought up. Another commenter says, I don't think you're an asshole, but I do think you resent her more than you're willing to admit and haven't actually worked through it internally yet. And OP says, you might be right. Sometimes I think I'm totally over it, but then I realize it still haunts me. Another commenter says, moving to your city, wanting a ride there where you're trapped in the car with her for hours, ignoring your rejections and being persistent? Those are not the actions of someone who wants closure to move on. That is someone trying to wiggle their way back into your good graces. And OP says, good point. And a final commenter says, once it was a mistake, twice was a lesson, and a third time is you being stupid. That's like watching the same movie but expecting a different ending. Don't do it to yourself. And OP says, there won't be a third time. I was already sure about not going back to her, and you guys' comments are helping me make up my mind about not talking to her. I'm on the same boat here. I don't think it's worth going back to her. It is very much like watching a movie and expecting a different ending the third time through. That is some major bullshit. Your friends perpetuating this stereotype? Not good. I don't know if they have your best interests at heart here. You know, if you don't want to fix it, it don't gotta be fixed. Maybe you have a chat with those friends and be like, leave me alone. You know, it is what it is, and it's not changing. Stop pressuring me to get back with her. I don't appreciate it, and I don't appreciate you guys for doing that. Something like that, OP, but yeah, you're not the asshole at all. And now, onto the update, 6 days later. Hey everyone, I wanted to give an update and thank you all for your input. I took the time to read through every comment, and while I didn't respond to all of them, it was only because I didn't have anything to add. I'm truly grateful for everyone who shared their thoughts. It has been incredibly helpful. After reading everything and thinking it through, I've decided to stick to my decision not to talk to Sarah. Something I forgot to mention in my original post, though I did tell a few commenters, is that I blocked her everywhere after we broke up the second time. Over the last few days, it seems like her persistence has started to backfire. Some of our mutual friends, including the ones who initially told me that I should talk to her, have become frustrated with her constant attempts to contact me. Apparently, they've started turning on her because of it. 3 days ago, Emily, the friend that I vented to back then, made a post on social media about stalkers. She didn't name Sarah, but a lot of people picked up on what she meant. I've also seen several comments on my original post suggesting that Sarah might have been stalking me. Her job in the same city and her coincidental appearance at the park all line up with that theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so maybe that is really why she moved, but honestly, it's not my problem, and I'm not gonna look into it. Things have been quieter. Friends have dropped the subject, and Sarah hasn't tried to reach out again. That is until yesterday. I watched the UFC event with some co-workers. When it ended, I was heading out to my car when my phone rang. It was one of our mutual friends. She said she had been talking to Sarah and asked if she could pass along a message. I sighed, but told her to make it quick. The message was simple. Sarah said she understands why I don't want to talk to her. She promised she wouldn't try to reach out again, but added that she still thinks that we need to talk. She said that the door is open if I ever want to. I told my friend that I didn't have a message to pass back and asked her not to bring up Sarah again in our conversations. If what Sarah said is true, it's a relief, but I'm not holding my breath. I wouldn't be surprised if she tries something else. Maybe she thinks giving me space will make me go back to her, but it won't. That chapter of my life is closed. Right now, I just want to focus on myself. I probably won't be dating anyone anytime soon. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I need to get to know people better before jumping into a relationship. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the word friend. That is another part of my life that I need to rethink. Some of the people that I've called friends have proven that they don't have my best interests at heart. A few people suggested therapy in the comments, and I'll admit, it is something I've been considering. For now, I'm giving myself time to heal on my own. But if I still don't feel right after a while, I will look into it. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to comment. Your advice has been a huge help in sorting this all out. In the comments, good for you for sticking to your boundaries. It sounds like you're taking positive steps for yourself. And OP says, yes, just moving forward instead of thinking about the past. Well, it sounds like you're doing well and moving on. Keep focusing on yourself and enjoying what you have. If you feel you need counseling, do it when you're ready. Good luck. And OP replies, I think now people around me understand my situation and what I truly need. That will help a lot. Another commenter says, this is exactly why monkey branching is a terrible dating practice. It's cheating with extra steps. That's why she keeps pushing. She knows what she did, just like she knows what she lost. Yet, ironically, she's too naive to understand that even if y'all got back together, you don't look at her the same. That's totally understandable. And OP replies, you're right. It would not be the same. And a final commenter says, good for you with holding to your boundaries. The moment she wasn't getting the amount of attention she wanted, she sought out a co-worker to monkey branch to. It was cheating. She wasn't remorseful as she began a relationship with that guy. All she wants now is to act like she didn't cheat on you and rekindle your relationship. She's already proven that she will cheat with whoever shows her attention. That's not someone to be in a relationship with. Have you not dated since the breakup? Personally, that helped me get over my ex-wife who cheated. It's been a year, and there is someone special out there for you. Not every woman is like your ex. Good luck. And OP says, I have dated other women since the breakup, just nothing serious. And look at this, a rare example of someone that just sticks up to their convictions and doesn't give the wronging party a chance. Thank you, OP, for showing some sanity in this world. I love that for you. I hope others will read this story, hear this story, and take your actions as an example of what they should do in their own life and not give their cheating ex a third chance. Come on, guys. Have a gaycation instead of giving your cheating ex a third chance. It's a much better idea. Am I the asshole for not leaving my own birthday party to drive my best friend home? I, 26 female, have been best friends with Jake, 27 male, for over 6 years. We work at the same company and are also planning to go on a work and travel trip together soon. This situation happened last Friday, which was my birthday. I had planned a big family gathering with over 20 guests, some of whom traveled over an hour to be there. Jake was invited, and he told me that he would come. The night before, we went grocery shopping together, but while sitting in the car, he suddenly told me last minute that he wouldn't be attending because he picked up an extra shift at work. I was a little hurt because we always celebrate our birthdays together, and he didn't need to take the shift. Our company has plenty of people who could have covered it, but I accepted it and moved on. On my birthday, we were texting before his shift. For context, Jake doesn't have a driver's license and usually relies on public transport or walks. I do have a license, but I don't own a car. I use my mother's when I need it. That afternoon, he mentioned that he would have to walk home because public transport stops running at a certain time, something he already knew when he took the shift. He also told me that he was feeling a bit sick and asked if I could come pick him up and drive him home. Our boss even told him that he could leave 2 hours early to catch the last bus if he needed to, but he chose not to. I told him that I couldn't leave my own birthday party just to pick him up and drive him home. I had guests over, food and drinks to serve, and I felt that it would be rude to leave when people had put in time and effort to celebrate with me. He replied, "Can't you just leave for 5 minutes and drive me home?" I explained that it wasn't just a 5-minute trip. I would be gone for at least 30 minutes in total. He replied with a dismissive, "Okay." Later, I checked Find My to make sure that he got home safely and texted him, apologizing that I couldn't drive him, reminding him that I normally do, but I really couldn't leave my own party. That's when he got angry and told me that my behavior was unacceptable and that I was just making excuses. For further context, I do drive him home fairly often, even when I'm not working the same shift as him. But this time, I had a prior commitment, one that he was originally supposed to attend. I reminded him again that our boss had told him that he could leave early to catch the bus. At this point, he started arguing that the town is dangerous at night, but we have both lived here our entire lives, and nothing has ever happened to us. I used to walk at night all the time before I had a license, and another friend of ours, who is also a coworker, regularly walks home late at night without issue. I tried to understand if something else was going on and asked him if maybe he was upset about something deeper and just projecting it onto the situation. I might have worded it poorly, but instead of talking, he just exploded at me. I apologized if I said it the wrong way, but at that point, he wasn't listening to me at all. Meanwhile, he wasn't trying to understand my side either. I told him that it was my responsibility to be at my own birthday party and that my guests had made an effort to celebrate with me. I couldn't just disappear for half an hour. He dismissed that and told me that I was a bad friend, a bad sister, because I said that I wouldn't drive my sister home either if I had prior commitments and it wasn't an emergency, and that my priorities were all wrong. In the end, he told me that he didn't want to see me for a while. I'm honestly confused and am questioning our friendship after this because of how he reacted. I really tried to understand his side, and I get that he was hurt that I wasn't there for him when he needed me, but at the same time, I couldn't just leave my own party if it wasn't an actual emergency. Now I don't know if our friendship can bounce back from this, or how I'm supposed to rely on him moving forward. If this is how he reacts to something like this, what happens if we end up in a similar situation while traveling? Is he just going to leave me behind if I don't do what he wants? For context, him feeling sick was related to a sore throat, so nothing that could be classified as an emergency. Fake names for privacy. So am I the asshole for refusing to leave my own birthday party to drive him home? In the comments, not the asshole, and he is not your friend. Yeah, if he's such a close friend that her refusing to leave her own birthday party to give him a ride is unacceptable, how is it acceptable that he unnecessarily picked up a shift and missed her party? OP replies, I never expected this, to be honest, because we take birthday parties pretty serious, and normally we wouldn't miss each other's birthday. But I was accepting it because we actually thought about making plans the next day to do a homemade spa day or something like this. But the way he reacted to me not driving him home was just out of the blue because I didn't know him like that. Alternative Number replies, he manufactured a situation where you were supposed to choose him, and he got pissed off because you put yourself first for once. He was testing you. This was kind of what I was thinking. He sounds manipulative. No one's going to leave their birthday party to give someone a ride home. It's incredibly rude to leave a party in your honor, and I'm 99% sure that that is common knowledge. Either there's something else going on, or he fabricated this whole thing as a test. Yeah, I'm getting big test vibes from this as well. This guy's not a friend. He doesn't sound like a good person. And you've given him all the grace in the world. You've given him the benefit of the doubt. But he is doing something incredibly out of left field and continues to disrespect you, OP. I don't know. I think you need to have a serious chat with him and decide where this friendship goes next, because if he's going to pull this once and not recognize or admit that what he's doing is wrong, who's to say that he won't do it again? People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. I think you need to get on top of this quote-unquote friend of yours. And now, onto the update, about 5 hours later. So I know this is an early update because my post is just a few hours old, but I thought I'd compress more information and some things that happened in the last few hours into an update. First of all, thank you all for your helpful comments. I never expected so many people to relate to this. I'm so sorry for everyone who has gone through something similar. To clarify something that I've seen speculated in the comments, there are no romantic feelings involved. He's gay, so there was never any romantic interest between us. After reading a lot of comments and reflecting on everything, I've decided to go no contact, aside from necessary work-related interactions. I've also made the decision to go forward with my work and travel plans alone because I simply can't trust someone like this to be my emergency contact in another country. I had a long conversation with my parents and showed them the chat. My mom actually broke down crying. She told me she's seen narcissistic behavior and red flags in him for years, but things have gotten worse in the last few months. She said this has been weighing on her, and when she laid everything out for me, I finally saw the bigger picture. Even though it wasn't a romantic relationship, I now realize he was isolating me from other friends and family, always trying to make himself the center of my social life. He even tried to insert himself into most of my other friendships, and looking back, anytime I made progress in life, he would find a way to hold me back or drag me down. My dad told me that some of the recent arguments I've had with my family were actually their way of trying to get me to see what was happening, but I just didn't realize it until now. He also said he's relieved that I won't be traveling overseas with him. My parents reassured me that while this will be hard at first, I will heal, and cutting ties now makes things easier in the long run. They also pointed out things that I had overlooked, like how he tagged along on family holidays without paying, but was never particularly grateful to my family for inviting him. I've started talking to one of our mutual friends about what happened. She's currently busy with the Super Bowl, but once she's back, I'll tell her everything as objectively as possible. I don't want to trash talk him or damage his reputation at work, but if coworkers ask, I'll be honest about why I've distanced myself. I genuinely do wish him the best. I hope he works through his issues and finds happiness, but I'm done. My mum breaking down in tears was the final straw for me. Even though a lot of my social circle overlaps with him, I know that I'll eventually sort everything out and move on. It honestly feels like a friendship divorce, but I think it's a necessary step. I need to reevaluate who my real friends are and how they treat me, and I might need to cut ties with a few other people along the way. I actually texted one of my close friends, joking that we're getting a divorce and that I'm filing for custody of her. I really hope that she won't be manipulated by him, but right now, I need to be prepared for anything. This won't be easy, but I'll cut my losses and move forward. Hopefully towards a better future, with better friends, ones that I can truly trust, and who put just as much effort into our friendships as I do. In the comments, the fact that people are telling her they noticed him isolating her from her family and friends really makes him trying to drag her away from her own party make sense. Yeah, that was such a transparent power play. He's expecting her to leave her birthday party to pick him up, and she's apologizing for it? What the hell? This is sadly a thing I don't see get talked about a lot, especially in media. We all know the toxic abusive marriages or people dating, and we all know how parents or children can be toxic and people shouldn't put up with it, which is fine, but what's not talked about is that friendships can also be extremely toxic and abusive. Just because it's not romantic doesn't mean that you're safe from vultures that isolate and gaslight you for your full attention and control over you. So just like an abusive relationship with a toxic boyfriend or dealing with an abusive parent, OP has been beaten down for so long that she'll excuse the abuse to appease the abuser, especially if you frame it as, oh, I'm being a good friend by helping them. Thankfully, this one incident was enough to finally interrupt the cycle. Grim little situation, that one, but I'm glad that OP got out in the end. Sometimes I feel like it does take a village to realize these toxic, abusive friendships that you're in. She got there in the end, and that's all that matters, so, I hope you keep that friend out of your life, OP. Still not the arsehole. Our next post is by user ThrowRA titled, My sister-in-law, female 31, disinvited my wife, female 28, from her baby shower after a joke. But my brother still wants me, male 30, to go. I'm stuck in the middle. I recently married the love of my life, and I am super close with my brother. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and my sister-in-law, female 31, who was pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like OP. He was such a cute kid." Now, a bit about my sister-in-law. She's usually nice, and I like her, but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down and says, "No, I'd much rather he turns out like you." A bit of an awkward comment, and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, "No, seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like OP. He was such a nice and cute kid." And then sister-in-law doubles down and says, "No, but you're so much more handsome," before turning to look directly at me and adding, "No offense." Now look, I wasn't deeply offended. My brother is a very good-looking guy, so I get it, but who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, "Well, as long as the baby doesn't look like sister-in-law, we should be fine." I chuckled, my brother laughed, but sister-in-law did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife and went, "What the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that." My wife was taken aback, and so was I. My brother tried to say something, but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Fast forward to today, sister-in-law has officially disinvited my wife from the baby shower and celebration. My wife says she doesn't even want to go, which, fair enough. My brother is devastated and really wants me to be there. Now here's the thing. My brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too, and I can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and sister-in-law need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now, and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks that sister-in-law owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think that sister-in-law was out of line first, but they also believe that I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life and that we should cut sister-in-law some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue. I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned, and if I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. In the comments, another Dominion says, "You stay home with your wife, send a gift. Your brother has to deal with his wife." Absolutely. Choose your wife, OP, or it will be the beginning of the end for your marriage. I would go, drop my gift off, take some family pics, and then dip, in and out in less than 20 minutes. I think I would frame it as choosing my unborn nephew over petty adult drama. I'm not going to tell my nephew in 10 years, "I didn't go to your baby shower because your mum called me ugly, and then your aunt called her ugly, so we were all beefing at the time." Brother should not be putting OP in the middle. Brother should have said something to his wife about the insults that she slung twice at OP, whom the brother allegedly adores. Instead, brother took the cowardly way and let OP's wife stand up to the brother's wife and take the heat and her wrath. Sister-in-law can dish it out, but can't take it. Pregnancy hormones, type A, high maintenance, etc. are not an excuse to be rude and disrespectful. OP sends a gift and stays home with his wife. I'm failing to see why what the sister-in-law said was offensive. I'd rather my kids turn out like my husband rather than my brother-in-law, regardless of what my husband said in the moment. Your wife got butthurt over another woman preferring her own husband over hers on the subject of her child. That's weird as fuck to me. Yeah, this whole mess makes no sense, and the wife's joke taking offense to what sister-in-law said was cruel. None of this makes sense, and then everyone laughed, except the sister-in-law, of course. OP's brother didn't even defend his wife and kept with the awkward cringe joke of their baby looking like his cute brother, yikes, and then laughed at his wife being indirectly called ugly? What? Thank you. I'm so confused by these comments acting like sister-in-law was way over the line and brought this on herself. Of course she'd rather think of her child as being like her husband, and OP's wife definitely didn't need to go there in response to a really mundane comment. Totally uncalled for. And to be honest, I suspect the original comment isn't even as much of an issue as the way they handled things after the fact. Like, would she be this upset if they just apologized and owned up to reading the room wrong and hurting her? Would she be this upset if her husband had backed her up on it, instead of acting like she needed to apologize? OP and his wife seem to be doubling down for no reason, and her own husband is clearly more aligned with his brother than with her. Not to mention the parents, who weren't even there, sticking their 2 cents in. That's always productive. At this point, right or wrong, she probably feels ganged up on, and is even less likely to back down as a result. Is this really worth the energy? Does OP really need an apology from her badly enough to keep going back and forth on this? I say let her have this one and move on. Even if she expressed herself poorly, or overreacted or whatever else. Seriously. Who cares at this point? What your wife said obviously hurt her more than what she said hurt you. So just eat crow and call it a day and focus on being happy for your brother's new baby. This is not worth dragging out any further, and all of you are doing that in your own way. Yeah, I can get on board with that reasoning. I think you three handled this situation pretty badly, and I think the sister-in-law is right in feeling upset. The brother doubling down in this situation, don't think that's a good move. Probably a mistake. I think OP should do what everyone else is saying and stick with their wife. Try not to cause more trouble and apologize for what has happened so far. So yeah, you have to apologize, your brother should apologize, and your wife should apologize. I don't think that the sister-in-law is wrong for being upset and reacting the way that she did. And now, onto the update, 6 days later. Thanks everyone for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciated the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation, but she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people that I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood, and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, although he's definitely the better-looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean that I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier. He's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he would get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better, but easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I'm sure that all of us regret what we said in that moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told people that she didn't want to be the reason that I missed it and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my sister-in-law was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she would feel uncomfortable. I told her that I appreciate that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us, and then I called my brother. And this is where I have to give him a lot of credit because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice, but instead of pushing, he just said, "I get it, man. Don't worry about it." I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt-trip me. He didn't try to convince me otherwise. He just let me make my choice. He even said, "Don't worry, we'll save you guys some food, and I'll drop it off later." I offered to help with setup if he needed it, and told him to say that I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, "Got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID. Just long enough for the baby shower, but miraculously recovered the next day." Now, here's where things got a bit more complicated. My mum was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited, but my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible situation, trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama, and then something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my sister-in-law. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at, but instead, they had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous," which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that sister-in-law actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to sister-in-law and helped her see that things had gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then he admitted something. He wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew that his wife was already under a lot of stress, and he didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning. And honestly, I respect that. My sister-in-law is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect. Her looks, my brother's looks, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure that she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped. So he waited. After the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So where do we stand now? Well, things seem good on the surface. My wife and sister-in-law made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have decided to just be extra sensitive around sister-in-law, given what she's going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway: I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note, speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news, or so he says. But in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You're the best bro that I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni, I don't think you know how much it really meant to me. And when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person, and will forever deny that I ever wrote this. Edit. Everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first, and I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize, but wanted to check if sister-in-law was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether my sister-in-law was even open to talking to her. I had told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize, and if he had given us the green light, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my sister-in-law decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. In the comments, Sarah Bera says, "Wow, everyone was reasonable. The family wasn't torn, and the parents stayed out of it. It's a Reddit miracle. I know you say it's embarrassing, but please tell your brother what you wrote here, even if it's in a text. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, and telling the people in your life that you love them and appreciate them is always a good thing to do. Imagine if he wasn't around to tell. You'd be wishing you had. Trust me." Our next post is by user Physical Device, titled, "Today I messed up by calling a family's recently deceased son an effing moron." For context, I'm a mailman who works out of the Midwest. I don't have to tell my fellow carriers in this area that the past 3 months have been rough. Not only has my city had snow for 3 weeks straight now, but Christmas package volume hasn't gone down very much. I've been working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday for these 3 months, just trying to keep up with the volume. It's also been very cold, and all around, I've been extremely stressed out and tired. Well, yesterday was no different, as I was told first thing in the morning that I had 2 routes that I had to get done on my own, plus any extra packages when I got back. Not only that, but my ProMaster, a bigger mail truck, had been taken on Sunday for maintenance, and I'd have to take a much smaller Metris car. This means I'll have much less space for all the mail and packages, but Metris cannot drive through any amount of snow. Not joking, a light dusting on the road will result in you getting stuck, so I was already tired and very frustrated. Fast forward to halfway through my day, and I'm delivering packages to a nicer neighborhood. I see the house that I'm dropping a package at doesn't have any open spots to park on the street, except for in front of their neighbor's fairly long driveway. It's not uncommon for us carriers to block a driveway for a minute just to drop off a package, so I don't think anything of it. Well, I couldn't see the end of the driveway due to the other cars, and as I turned to park, I realized that at the end of the driveway is a pretty large pile of snow. I tried to brake and turn, but it was too late. I land right in the middle of this pile of snow, completely stuck. I try in vain to get myself out, but for safety reasons, we aren't allowed to dig ourselves out. So I have to call the office to get a tow truck, which I'm told may take an hour to get there. This means I'll have to stay an extra hour to get the rest of the packages delivered. Pretty obviously, I am absolutely livid at this point, cursing up a storm in my car. Well, Down the driveway comes a man who doesn't look very happy. He throws up his arms in that "what the hell are you doing" pose, which just makes me more mad. I get out and snap him a "can I help you?" He snaps back at me with a "what the hell are you doing blocking my driveway?" This is where I fucked up. I'm usually very calm and polite with customers, no matter how rude they are to me, but today I just couldn't control myself, and I say, "Well, it looks like someone was too lazy to shovel the snow on their driveway into their yard and instead piled it in the street." The man gets red in the face and looks like he's going to scream at me, but takes a deep breath and says, "My son shoveled this for me." Without even thinking, I respond, "Well, your son's a fucking moron." I again expect him to yell at me, which in hindsight is exactly what I wanted him to do. Instead, he stumbles back like I struck him, and I see tears start to pour from his eyes. He immediately turns and half runs up the driveway, and I can see he's sobbing. I instantly feel confused and extremely guilty, because mailman or not, there was no reason for him to speak to him that way. So pretty quickly I follow him up the driveway where I see their cars parked. On both of the back windshields is a sticker of a boy with text on top and bottom that says, using fake name, "Rest in peace, Riley. We'll miss you. 2008 to 2025. I feel like I was slapped in the face. Their child had passed 2 weeks ago. I walk to their door in a daze and I knock. Both parents answer, a mix of fury and anguish on their face. That's when the stress and exhaustion from the past 3 months and the intense guilt that I was feeling hit me like a brick wall. I dropped to my knees and began to cry, trying to tell them that I was sorry in between sobs. To my astonishment, both parents dropped next to me, wrapped me in a hug, and started to cry with me. We stayed like that for a few minutes until I got my crying under control, and I told them why I was so angry and how sorry I was. The dad put his hand on my shoulder and told me that he forgave me, which brought on more tears. We introduced ourselves and talked for a bit, but eventually I had to go wait for the tow truck in my car. But as I was waiting, they both came out with winter gear and snow shovels. They were offering to dig me out, which I vehemently refused. I told them that I didn't at all deserve their help, but the mother told me, "I cleaned up my son's messes for 16 years because I'm his mother. That doesn't just stop because he passed," which caused me to cry even more. They eventually got me out, and I exchanged phone numbers with them and told them that I'd invite them over for dinner later this week. They accepted, and now my wife and I are going to cook them a veritable feast this coming Saturday. In the comments, Zenim says, "A mistake done when in a stressed day pales in comparison to the immensity of your soul in being able to sympathize and share your heart with them. You're a good and kind person, OP. Not everyone would think about the dad who went back home crying. You done good in the end. This is what matters." This was worth the read. Honestly, it's easy to lash back and forth in the heat of things, but sometimes just falling into a deeper level of understanding out of empathy, it really opens you up to important and impactful moments. Thanks for sharing. I don't think you messed up. What you've done is allow some release for you and possibly the parents. Not what you would intend to do, but it sounds like it's healthy. If you hadn't apologized, that would have been messed up. They are mature enough to recognize that you were just being human, aka having a bad day. Glad you made some new connections in these tough times. We all make mistakes, and it's good that you've made up for your mistake in this situation, regardless of everything that was happening to you at the time, OP. I do hope that everything starts to get better at work for you. You were put in an impossible situation. I understand why you reacted the way you did, and again, yeah, we're only human. You might have messed up, but you did so good in rectifying your mistakes and showing your humanity. So thank you for doing that. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. So first things first, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who posted love and support on the original post. I apologize for not responding to any comments. I really thought that I was going to get torn up in the comments, so I muted the post right after I posted it. I wasn't going to post this story in the first place, but a friend of mine told me about this subreddit and told me that people would love to hear the story. I'll be more active on this post. Now, as for an actual update, the parents did have dinner with my wife and I last night, and they are absolutely wonderful people. They are 40 and 42, are quite a bit older than my wife and I, 28 and 27, but that didn't matter in the slightest. We had my family's famous goulash with a very nice bottle of wine they brought with them, and talked almost the whole night. At one point, I did work up the courage to tell them about the post, and they were a bit apprehensive at first. But once I read some of the wonderful comments you all wrote, I didn't read the absolutely disgusting comments that some people left, they felt absolutely blessed that so many were supportive of their family and our new friendship. The father did have something he wanted me to include in this update. Before he had his son, he was a lot like me. Very quick to anger, prone to flying off the handle if he was having a bad day. When he had his son, he got a bit better, but was still an angry person overall. When his son died, he had an absolute meltdown and said some very hurtful things to family members who were trying to be supportive. He's going to feel that guilt about that forever, and made a promise to both his wife and son that he would keep his anger under control. Well, then along comes me, his first real test of his new promise. He told me he genuinely believes that his son sent me as a real test to the promise that he made him. He encourages everyone to do the same, to approach others with compassion and kindness before anger, as none of us truly know what battles everyone around us is fighting. In the comments, Lil MXFI says, "This is the most beautiful update to an TIFU that I've ever seen on here. I'm glad that the moment of anger turned into something beautiful. I'm not a believer in fate or what have you, but if ever there was a case to be made for some things really do happen for a reason, it's this. Thank you for updating. I've been thinking about that post, and it's amazing to see that you've connected like this and forged a friendship. My faith in the kindness of humanity has been restored on this one." Enviromo says, "Oh man, I'm crying. Thank you for sharing, and please thank your new friends too. I'm gonna stop with Reddit today and go be kind to myself and my dog and everyone I see." And Master of Kittens 3K says, "As someone who has had to work on his anger management, I would like to offer you some advice on how to improve yourself. The first one is going to sound wrong, but it's really important. Don't bottle things up. Let yourself be annoyed or hurt or whatever. Bottling it up is what leads to the explosions. Second, learn to slow down. Breathe a little bit before you start to respond to things. Those two things can make a huge difference in your life." Chaos Draws Near says, "I did something similar once. I was at an outdoor event and had only one earbud in. A man approached and asked me why. I think I said something about safety and being able to hear your surroundings, and how stupid it would be to be in a crowd or on a road with two earbuds in. Turns out his daughter died after walking on train tracks with noise-cancelling headphones on, and he was hoping to get a quote from me to put on his awareness website. I regret saying that to the guy, because I know it must have hurt him quite a bit to hear, but I also kind of feel like it only proved my point." Am I the asshole for pointing out my girlfriend dresses like a homeless person and insisting she get new clothes? I'm 23, finishing my last year for my master's. My girlfriend Sarah is 20 from the same university. Her parents are abusive and they all grew up dirt poor. Now, Sarah is very beautiful. With no clothes on, she is literally the sexiest thing alive to me. The problem lies in the addendum, with clothes on. She dresses like a bloody homeless person. Her clothes are all tattered with holes in it and worn out, they don't fit properly, and most of her outfits just plainly look ridiculous. She would wear red on red and look like an effing period stain, and she gets them from the local Goodwill because it's the only thing she can afford. I'm genuinely embarrassed sometimes when she accompanies me to dates because I scratch my head thinking how someone so beautiful can show up looking so ugly. My parents and friends have commented on it too. Hell, just last weekend when we went to the pool, my mum said, "Wow, I didn't know your girlfriend was actually pretty." It's because she wore a plain bathing suit the whole time. I only mentioned the abuse thing because I feel like at some point growing up, her parents had to have been negligent to let their child leave the house looking like that. My parents are upper middle class. Because I got enough scholarships to go to school for basically free, my parents decided to give me $50,000 as a graduation gift that I never touched. I decided, hey, maybe I should help my girlfriend look presentable. So I gave her a $5,000 gift card for Macy's for our 1-year anniversary yesterday and told her that she can use it for a shopping spree. She was very grateful, but said she couldn't accept it. She gave me a watch and card, which I loved and am very appreciative of. I asked her why not, and she said it was too much. I told her that it was just as much a gift for me as it was for her, and when she asked me to elaborate, I basically admitted that her clothes make her look like a homeless person and wanted to teach her how to dress and give her a new wardrobe. She actually got really offended at me and we had a huge fight. She accused me of finding her unattractive, which is absolutely not true, she just can't dress, and told me if I just wanted a trophy girl to look at, find someone else. I tried to be as sympathetic as I could, but frankly, I was pissed off at her reaction. I didn't even put the onus on her to buy new clothes. I gave her $5,000 to buy a whole new wardrobe, and she reacts like this? It was a very inconsiderate, over-the-top reaction, especially considering I'm the one paying for it. My friends all agreed with me that what she did was over the top, but my sister said she was probably embarrassed in the way that I went about it, and I was being a jerk. I truly don't see how I'm in the wrong at all in this situation. So Reddit, help me understand. Am I the asshole for offering to pay for a brand new wardrobe? In the comments, Black and Shredded says, "You're the asshole 100% unequivocally. Lamau, you compared her to a period stain. The way you speak about her is appalling, but I'm not surprised by how narcissistic and egotistical you come off in your post. You fail to see why your girlfriend's feelings might be hurt. Take a step back, think of productive ways to address the problem, and stop acting like a fucking tool." And OP replies, "I didn't compare her to a period stain to her face. I was just saying that to emphasize how bad she is at dressing up and how bad her clothes are. I truly think the people saying you're the asshole just don't realize how bad she dresses. I get shat on all the time. It's not like, wow, she should probably choose a different outfit. It's more like, what the fuck? Why is she wearing dresses with giant holes in it with tattered tennis shoes that don't go together?" Kurian says, "You're the asshole. Did it never occur to you that maybe she likes her clothes?" OP replies, "She literally wears clothes with holes and admits that she has absolutely no fashion sense. I've had 4 different friends on different occasions ask me why she's wearing what she's wearing. For example, one time we went on a fancy dinner date and she wore a tattered red dress shirt 3 sizes too big with a skirt with polka dots and looked just silly. I get it sounds blunt and rude in my post, but I'm trying to emphasize just how bad she dresses." Kurian replies, "So that's a no then. You can't imagine that she might actually like the clothing that she has chosen." OP replies, "No, she doesn't love dirty, dingy clothes with holes in it. If anything, she might be too prideful to take money from me. But why would anyone like old, tattered up, dingy, discolored clothes? She might like her style, but the quality of clothing is atrocious." Kurian replies, "I know people who like wearing dirty things with holes. You've talked about what you think about her clothes. You've talked about what your parents think about her clothes. You've talked about what your friends think about her clothes. But you don't seem to know or care what she thinks about her clothes. That is why you're the asshole. Any response other than, 'I had previously asked her and she said she didn't like her clothes,' just makes you worse." Back up to the post, there is an edit. "I got a few comments already that I only mentioned looks, so I'm the asshole. But why the hell would I mention things like how much I love when she kisses my cheek when she thinks I'm asleep, or that when she goes to the store and asks if I want anything and I say no, she will still pick up something small just because? Or the fact that we communicate amazingly, and for the most part, never have any major conflicts or any other non-appearance looking attributes. It just wasn't really relevant to the situation at hand." Edit. "I want to reiterate that I would be fine with her shopping at Goodwill if she bought clothes that made her look presentable. I'm just saying her fashion sense is atrocious, mixed with the fact that she does tend to buy dingy clothes that tend to get rips and holes in them easily. She never replaces her clothes, so she wears years-old hand-me-down clothes with a horrible fashion sense, so she looks silly. I know me continuously reiterating just how silly she looks makes me sound like an asshole, but I literally get people comment on her fashion sense. Literal strangers comment on it. She looks genuinely ridiculous, and I don't know how to emphasize just how bad she dresses without sounding like a tool. I get where you're coming from in this one, OP, but I think the way that you communicated in this situation was wrong, and the way that you're going about it is also wrong. You're coming across as a tool because that's the way you're communicating. You can say all of what you've just said by using different language that doesn't make it sound like you hate your girlfriend. Because I can understand what you mean. I get that. I have people in my life that are like that as well. I understand your frustrations. I just don't know how much the internet can help you besides saying, go talk to her about it, have lengthy conversations, and fix this with her. Because it doesn't sound like you've been doing that much. And surprisingly, that kind of does fix things. So the way you've communicated and gone about this situation with that original post, you're the asshole for that one. And now onto the update, which was posted the next day. We have since talked, and the problem is pretty much resolved. Updates at the bottom. Thanks to the few people who helped me navigate this situation. Actually, last edit. Okay, so I finally talked to my girlfriend. She's with me right now, and before I had a chance to apologize, she burst out crying. When she finally stopped, she was able to open up. Apparently, her parents were extremely abusive, even worse than I originally thought. Up until she was 18, she only had one outfit. Just one. Her parents had a ton of weird, oddly specific ways to control their children. Like, for example, they tried to force her to be right-handed because she was a lefty, or they made her take only cold showers for mental fortitude. When she finally got free from her parents' control, she had no idea how to dress. So she went to Goodwill and just bought a bunch of colorful clothes that looked neat. She had absolutely no experience in dressing herself, and she never really felt like she should ask. She just assumed one shirt plus one pants equals one outfit, regardless of the color, size, wear and tear, etc. When I pointed out her style was strange, she got extremely defensive because she was never confronted with this before. She thought her sense of style was around average, and when in previous attempts I tried to subtly bring up to wear a different outfit, she just thought that that outfit was bad. When I explicitly said in general that her style was bad, she just felt completely embarrassed. We're going shopping tomorrow and buying her a bunch of new clothes. I apologized for not bringing it up more tactfully, and she insisted that it was okay. And she probably wouldn't have gotten the hint if I kept beating around the bush. Thank you for the people who tactfully told me that I was the asshole, and thanks to those who actually took my concerns seriously, besides just completely dismissing me because they personally haven't had my experience. In the comments, Black and Shredded says, "No assholes here." Fuck it, I read through all of the OP's replies and edits, and I decided to change my judgment. According to OP, he gets countless people comment on his girlfriend's appearance, including having people be genuinely surprised when not in clothing, had complete strangers comment and say that it looks like she just came from panhandling, and had young children comment. Children are brutally honest. I don't think I'm particularly materialistic, but if that many people are commenting about her clothing choices, something is wrong. If one person did it, then he's an asshole. If 3, then they are assholes. But that many? I'm starting to think you may have a point in being embarrassed. You didn't approach it the best, but that can be blamed on your autism. Being autistic doesn't completely absolve you, but at the end of the day, you were trying to do a nice thing and just went about it completely terribly. I can't in good conscience keep my previous judgment. I do recommend talking to her obviously, but you said you plan to later. Good luck, and I hope everything turns out well. What You Gonna Do When says, I think the responses to this aren't fair. Just because you didn't see ahead what some criticisms were going to be doesn't mean that your responses aren't true. Reddit loves a bandwagon. I also don't think they're fair because I believe you wrote your post more harshly than you probably presented to her, but Reddit assumes the worst in that situation. And OP replies, I really think it's the tone I wrote in, mixed with the abrasiveness and tactlessness I approached the gift, which made me sound like an asshole. Ah well. This is one of those cases where two things can be true. Yes, he came off like an entitled asshole in the first post. Giving someone $5K to replace their entire wardrobe is generous, but also quite heavy-handed and insulting if there was no prior discussion about them wanting a new wardrobe. But it sounds like she genuinely needed help and was dressing in a way that would impact her life negatively, so I'm glad they were able to work it out. Yeah, growing up my parents were neglectful and abusive, and I didn't even have enough underwear at one point. For senior year in high school, I had one pair of pants. When I became an adult, I genuinely did not know how to dress myself. On the other hand, I legit think OP did not know how to discuss this with his girlfriend tactfully at all. If this is how he comes across in text, a medium in which he's in complete control of his tone and verbiage, and has ample time to edit his post before hitting submit, I cannot imagine how much worse he phrases shit in person. Some people come off much better in person because tone can really help. Speaking and writing are two different skills, so some people are able to say things in a way that gets a point across, but will write it in a cold way, etc. Should have started with buying her an outfit here and there. Go to the mall to hang out, but end up buying her an outfit so she starts getting used to nicer and better fitting clothes. Throwing $5K at her and telling her to replace her whole wardrobe is just insensitive and childish. Even if it is worked out okay, his attitude throughout the entire first post is so fucking off-putting. Yeah, one of the first things that he mentions being how attractive she is naked really set a tone for him only caring about how sexy she should be. The way he spoke about her was just so freaking nasty. Even if his criticism was valid, the way he worded it was so unnecessarily harsh. I wouldn't even talk like that about a person who I dislike, let alone my partner. That poor woman dealt with severe abuse from her parents, and now she ended up with this asshole because she has no idea what a healthy relationship looks like. Yeah, I think Am I the Asshole as a subreddit has reinforced that you're not wrong, but you're an asshole. Weird resolution. I'm glad that they did work it out together, but to me, all the abuse that she has suffered in the past with her parents shows me that she's not able to see what a healthy relationship is. Because yeah, he's autistic for sure, and maybe the way that he was talking in that first post is the way that he comes across in real life. And if that is true, she's with someone that is not healthy for her. He could have approached the $5,000 situation in so many better ways. Like, yeah, go hang out at the shopping center together. Go get a few outfits for her, slowly ease her into it. Don't shove $5,000 in her face and say, grow a brain. That's just so dick-headed and wrong, and it's not the way to approach a relationship if you're trying to keep that relationship alive. I'm glad that it somewhat resolved itself, but oh my god, OP, please, learn from this. Our next post is from a deleted account, titled, Am I the asshole for how I handled this coworker insulting me? I'm 28, and when I was 24, my mum died of breast cancer after both of my nanas also died of it. I got some tests done and found that I did have some potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue, and the doctor said that I could either wait and see if they did turn harmful, or I could get ahead of it and get a double mastectomy. I got the double mastectomy. I was warned about scarring, but not the extent of it, and wound up with scars 1 inch long and ½ an inch wide on my chest, and I hated the way that it looked. It got to the stage where it was having a serious impact on my mental health. I felt sick seeing myself, and I wouldn't leave my flat. I went to a therapist who did some CBT with me before she suggested seeing a plastic surgeon about scar reduction. The plastic surgeon said the scars could be hidden with implants. I was naturally big, an F-cup, before the mastectomy, so I opted to go with slightly smaller but still fairly large double D size implants. They hid the scars pretty well, and I'm happy with them. My mental health improved, and I felt comfortable in my own skin again. A few months ago, I was at work having lunch with this friend of mine, and we were planning a holiday. She made a joke about my boobs exploding on the plane. The friend knew me before the surgery, and I knew that she wasn't being mean, so I laughed. A coworker, Jill, overheard and not knowing about the cancer thing, told everyone that I'd had a boob job. She hated me from then on out, and she's made a bunch of jokes to other coworkers, calling me fake in 2 ways and more plastic than Barbie, all when I was in earshot. I've asked her to stop more than once. We were all having lunch today. Me, Jill, and a few others, and a coworker, Bob, was talking about his daughter wanting to marry this guy who has nothing going for him. And I said that Bob was being a little bit shallow. Jill replied, "Well, you'd know all about being shallow," gesturing at my chest. I'd had enough and said, "Do you know why I have these? A few years ago, the doctors found potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue, and I was advised to get a double mastectomy by a doctor and was left with huge, ugly scars on my chest. I went to see a therapist and cosmetic surgeon who advised me to get implants to hide the scars, and I did, just so I could look at myself in the mirror without crying. So maybe next time you want to judge someone for having cosmetic surgery, you should ask them why they had it first." And I feel like that was a mic drop moment. So I picked up my food and left. Someone from the lunchroom came to talk to me, saying that Jill was just joking, I was being oversensitive and a bitch about it when Jill didn't know about the cancerous cells. I replied that maybe Jill shouldn't have been a bitch to begin with. It's the end of the day now, and half the office seems to side with Jill and the other half with me. Am I the asshole? In the comments, BassBB12 says, "Not the asshole. Jill shouldn't be commenting on her coworkers' bodies. This could easily be seen as sexual harassment." Edit, OP, please mention to HR that you repeatedly asked Jill to stop commenting on your body and she refused. I don't see this ending well for Jill since she continuously commented on your body and pushed you to the point of feeling uncomfortable in the workplace. And OP says, "I don't have any record of it. I only ever spoke to her about stopping in private. The 4 times I asked were in the lift twice, the stairwell, and the women's bathroom, all places without cameras. So the only person who can confirm that I asked her is Jill herself. I can prove she's been making comments about my body by asking any coworker she spoke to, but can't prove that I asked her to stop." Edit, HR wants to see me about creating a hostile work environment, so it looks like someone reported either me or Jill or both. Update, HR wants to see me tomorrow, so I'll update after work. If they're dealing with it this quickly though, it can't be good. Update 2, some coworkers have offered to write me letters of support for HR tomorrow, basically saying that they've seen Jill harass me complete with rough dates and times. Someone asks, who filed the HR complaint, and OP says, "Wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that Jill was the one who reported me. She has a friend in HR. Would it count as sexual harassment?" Answer is it depends replies, "She has a friend in HR. If the note is from that friend, or the meeting is with that friend, I would try to go over her head as fast as possible. Perhaps initiating a counterclaim, not sure if that's the right term. You may want to ask over at r/legaladvice or r/legaladvice UK if you're in the UK, is someone else guessed?" And OP replies, "I am in the UK. The email is from Jill's friend, so it looks like the friend will be overseeing the complaint, but there's something in my contact that basically says that if HR ever gets involved, I have the right to an unbiased overseer and can request a different one if I can prove the current one is biased. So if it is this woman, and I can show she and Jill are friends, then I might be able to fix it or go above her head." And now, onto the update the next day. For the rest of the day, I had about 1/3 of my office come up to me and offer support, and the rest tell me that Jill was just joking around and I was being a bitch. I replied that Jill was being a bitch long before I was. And I then got an email from HR saying they wanted to talk to me the following day, and when I called for clarification, they mentioned a hostile work environment. Note, this is apparently an American term and holds little weight in England, but it's what was said over the phone. I knew the person who signed off the email and I'd spoken to. Her name was Debbie, and she was Jill's friend in HR, so I was fairly confident on who had reported me. I realized that if this was already being sent to HR, I needed as much ammunition as possible. So I went about collecting my information. As Debbie had dealt with me so far, it was safe to assume that she would be the person reviewing the complaint with me, and if it was true, I was fucked. However, I vaguely remembered a section on complaints that was in my contract when I first signed with the company. I flicked through the contract, and there was a part in the complaints section that said that I was contractually allowed to request a change of reviewer if I felt my allocated reviewer was biased. It was called an impartial overseer. I photocopied the page and highlighted that part. Then I messaged the people who had offered their support over Facebook and said basically, HR have asked to see me. Do any of you remember Jill insulting me to your face? And are you willing to write and sign something saying what you heard and when? Not everyone was willing to help, as Jill is somewhat feared in the office due to her befriending HR and management, but about 20 people were willing to help me. I guessed roughly when I had asked Jill to stop previously. The 4 asks over the last few months. Some timings were easy to guess, as they had happened on my break or when I'd first arrived at work, and I wrote them all down, along with a rough time of when the lunchroom confrontation happened, and a list of names of who was there for the lunchroom confrontation. I got to work slightly early the next morning. I went round everyone who had messaged me, and most of them managed to give me a printed and signed letter. Some didn't manage to write one, but no big deal. This isn't exact words, as there are 16 letters to sum up here, but the gist was, my name is blank. I work with Jill last name and OP. On blank date, at blank time approximately, I spoke with Jill last name, during which she referred to OP as blank insult. I felt this was inappropriate as it was directly related to OP's appearance, and am willing to go on record further to establish that Jill last name has been discussing OP in the workplace in the same manner for 3 months now, causing me discomfort and creating what I feel is a hostile work environment, signed blank. I wound up with about 16 letters, all from different people, and one of them was in the lunchroom for my conversation with Jill. Some even had bullet-pointed lists of everything Jill had said to them about me or other people, and as it turns out, Jill has issues with a lot of people's appearances. She apparently made comments about one co-worker's weight, and something anti-Semitic about another co-worker's nose, all of which were put in these letters. There's about 45 people in the office, so while 16 wasn't a majority, it's still a decent amount. The letters weren't hugely long. Most were only a paragraph, but they had all the necessary information. I was asked to come to HR at 10 a.m. I took the letters from co-workers, the photocopy of the page in my contract, and my dates and times in a little folder with me. I got there, and Debbie was the one overseeing the interview. She got up from her desk, ready to lead me into another room. I immediately turned to the other HR worker that was currently there and said, "So this is my meeting with you then?" Debbie said, "No, you're with me." I replied that this wouldn't sit well with me, as my contract states that I have a right to an impartial overseer, and as I said this, I took the contract page out of my folder. Debbie read it. I wouldn't let her take the paper when there was a shredder so close by, and said she could be impartial. I replied that I really didn't mean to be a pain, but I had it on good authority that the person on the other end of this complaint is her friend, and my contract does say that I'm allowed an impartial overseer. Debbie stomped off to get her supervisor. Supervisor asks how I know that she can't be impartial, and I tell him that I have it on good authority that Jill, who was on the other end of this complaint, is a close friend of Debbie. He asked Debbie if this was true, to which she only replied, "I can be impartial." Supervisor took a deep breath, asked the other HR rep to come with him, and the 4 of us all went to review the complaint. I thanked them for being so accommodating. I was worried that I'd annoyed them. Debbie took out the complaint, and all 3 of them went through it with me. Debbie looked homicidal the whole time the interview was happening, as she had clearly anticipated firing me, or at least recommending me being fired. The interview went something like this. It took like over half an hour, and they kept asking me the same questions, but phrased in different ways, so this is a really drastically condensed version. Question: You said outside that you think Jill last name reported you. Why is this? Answer: Jill has had an issue with me for about 3 months now. Question: Why didn't you come to us when you realized Jill had an issue? Answer: I had no issue with her. Question: What issue does Jill have with you? Answer: 4 years ago, a specialist identified potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had surgery to remove my breast tissue, thereby removing the cells and the risk. After the surgery, I was left with large scars on my chest. I went to a therapist for low self-esteem and depression. The therapist suggested a plastic surgeon who suggested breast implants to cover my scars. All of this is in my medical history, which you have a copy of in my file, and my full permission to review. Jill found out about my breast implants but didn't know about the cancer. Jill had a problem with my breast implants and decided to communicate this problem to our co-workers. Question: why do you feel that this is true? Answer: here are 16 signed statements, all from different co-workers, all testifying that Jill told the entire office that I'd had breast implants on the day that she found out, and has since made comments about these implants frequently. They have quotes of what Jill said to them about it, and rough dates and times. Question: rough dates and times? Answer: no one knew this would be escalated to such an extent, so no one really took notes as and when it happened. Question: what event or events do you think directly led to this complaint of harassment? Answer: for me, harassment began when Jill told everyone about my breast implants without my consent, but as to the complaint against me, it would probably be what happened at about blank time yesterday in the lunchroom. Jill made a comment about me being shallow while gesturing to my breasts, and I replied by giving her an abridged version of my relevant medical history and ending with a comment about the importance of getting the full story. There are cameras in the lunchroom, so I'm sure you'll be able to find that conversation. I'll admit that I could have handled the situation better, but after 3 months, I felt as though I had to put my foot down. Here's a list of names of people who were also present. There were 6 people at the table, including myself and Jill. One of these people is also in those letters and has written their account of the conversation and signed it. Question: had you had a conversation with Jill prior to this regarding her comments about you? Answer: several, spaced out over the last 3 months. Each time, I communicated to her that I felt uncomfortable and upset with these comments she was making and would appreciate it if she were to stop. Question: to your knowledge, was Jill made aware of your former cancer at any point in this time? Answer: no. It wasn't mentioned in the conversation with my friend she overheard, and I didn't tell her because frankly, it's none of her business, and I did not feel the need to detail my medical history to a co-worker in order to avoid further sexual harassment. Supervisor stands up and says, well, I think we're done here. He shakes my hand and sends me back to my desk, saying that I would hear from them after they reviewed the evidence. Letters, CCTV, medical history, and anything they had already, and made a decision on the case. I got back to my desk, pulled up my CV, and prepared to start the job search again. About an hour goes by, then the person who wrote the letter and was there for the lunchroom conversation gets called for a meeting with HR. They come back 10-ish minutes later. The other people who were also there for the lunchroom conversation got called in one by one, except Jill. All of them are gone for about 10 minutes, then come back, find a co-worker, and say that HR wants to see them. Then the people who wrote letters but weren't there yesterday are also called in one by one and are each gone for about 10 minutes each. Some longer, some shorter. By about 3:30, it looks like everyone who wrote a letter or was there in the lunchroom has been interviewed. Then finally, Jill gets called in. She's gone for about 30 minutes and comes back fuming. She glares at me while I work, but I ignore her. 4:30-ish, Jill gets called in to HR again. 5 p.m. rolls around, and everyone is either leaving or getting ready to leave when Jill storms back into the office. She glares at me the whole time while she packs up her desk. She then starts telling anyone who will listen that I got her fired before shoving her way onto the lift. An email comes in from HR, my case is closed. In the comments, Rave69 says, I hope OP found a new job because Debbie could be out for her to make her pay for getting Jill fired. Hopefully Debbie gets fired too, but they wouldn't have told OP that. HR exists to protect the company, and Debbie just showed that she would dance said company into a wrongful termination suit. Honestly, Debbie most likely survived. She was stopped before she did anything wrong. OP probably saved her job in the end because she asked for someone else. Had OP not done so, then she would have walked the company into legal trouble. The investigation into OP in itself was pretty questionable, depending on what evidence her supervisor saw about how the complaint was filed. At the very least, I would be looking at her very carefully going forward if I were her supervisor. My grandma always told me to document everything. Get conversations written in writing, send and email confirmation on the conversation, don't just trust someone. I trusted my old workplace, and man did they try to fuck me over. Union and legal threat helped me, and I learned from that. Told my husband the same thing. He trusted his supervisors. I said email HR anyway. Good thing he did. They had no idea about anything he's been telling his supervisors. Me, 52 male, as a single dad, found out that my 16-year-old daughter goes to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. Hi Reddit. I'm a single dad to 3 girls, 19 female, 16 female, and 14 female. This is something that I'm not sure how to approach. For some backstory, my ex-wife and I divorced in 2015. I am happy as a single dad, and I love my daughters. I make enough money to support my daughters and then some, and try my best being a solo parent. My oldest is doing great in college. My 16-year-old is successful and has a great portfolio to get into fashion school, and my youngest is a music prodigy. My situation today concerns my 16-year-old. 16 female, we'll refer to her as E, is quite rebellious and spends a lot of time out of the house. She works full-time pretty much, drives herself around, and loves to travel. She funds her own travel, so I'm pretty lenient about it. There have been times in the past where she's gone across the country without telling me, but I would give her trust back. She's really improved this year. I have suspected that she takes drugs a few times in the past, and even a couple of weeks ago. I never had real proof besides a 2014 incident with weed. My ex-wife and I brought a lot of tension into the house when we first separated, so I didn't punish E severely. She was on lockdown for about 3 days. A couple of days ago, my band and I rehearsed as we do multiple times a week. My bassist told me that his son, who has been in and out of rehab for years, has seen E at Narcotics Anonymous meetings every day this week, last week, and a couple of weeks before that. I found out from his son that E is very involved, contributes all the time, has a sponsor, and is an awesome support to the group. The group meets from 9 to 11, which is when E is at work, quote-unquote. E would not go to Narcotics Anonymous to get attention or to fake an addiction. I've been doing a lot of research about addiction and Narcotics Anonymous and realized I missed a lot of the signs that E had a problem. I feel terrible about this and wish that I was there more. I'm happy for my daughter, but I'm very confused about how to approach this. I found from the internet that people usually do not get sponsors without being sober. I want my daughter to know that I know, but how do I do it tactfully? I'm not angry or upset with her, I'm just confused, and I'd like to know how I can support her more as a father with a topic that I'm unfamiliar with. I feel awful that I missed the signs and potential cries for help. In the comments, Tin says, "First, remember that anonymity is a core tenet of Narcotics Anonymous. It is a fundamental value of the organization and essential in preserving the sense of overall community well-being and the emotional security of its individual members. Your first duty to your daughter is to respect her privacy here, as any sense of violation or betrayal might ripple throughout the community. Although your concern seems to come from a place of genuine love and support, it's inevitable that any dialogue you initiate with her about involvement with NA will come across as confrontational, accusatory, and misinformed. It must hurt that she didn't come to you with a problem, but it's important to recognize that there's a kind of division and emotional labor among communities, meaning you can't get everything from one person. She's exactly in the place where she needs to be, and it sounds like she's doing really well. Hold on to the empathy that you feel right now, and if there comes a time when she's ready to share that part of her life with you, you'll be equipped to support her in whatever way she needs." And OP replies, "Thank you for your reply. Over her life, she has not necessarily come to me with boy and emotional problems, but we have a pretty open line of communication. Drugs she has never really spoken about, so I can see how she'd find a refuge at Narcotics Anonymous. Overall, I'm glad she's at a place where she's getting help." And OP added in another comment, "Thanks for the new perspective. I didn't know how far the anonymity in these meetings go, so I was concerned about that when bringing it up. I don't want to attend meetings with her in fear of her being uncomfortable. I just want her to know that she goes and that I'm always open for support." Lizzie6692 replies, "You can let her know that you are there to support her without telling her that you know about the meetings. Addiction recovery is very difficult. If she has found something that works for her, then you don't want to jeopardize that. As the previous commenter said, if she finds out that the meetings are not really anonymous, she may stop going. The best solution for this is to tell her that you are always there if she needs you, and then step back and wait for her to come to you." Yeah, I think that's a very good solution here. I do hope that if and when OP approaches her and says, "I'm always here for you if you need me," I hope that doesn't tip her off to the fact that he knows about the Narcotics Anonymous, because that would be something, I guess, outside of norms, like the normal dynamic that she has with him. And, if he is coming from a genuine place, she might open up to him, who knows. If I were in his shoes, I'd be struggling with what to do as well, because that's quite a serious thing for a 16-year-old to be involved in. How much have I missed out on as a parent? I'd feel bad that I'd let my child down in some ways, or in many ways, it feels like. And now on to the update, 4 months later. Hi everyone, I'm incredibly thankful for everyone's comments and suggestions. Since my first post, things took a bit of a turn from her progress, but today she's back to 30 days sober. We have not proceeded with rehab, but here's what's happened since then. 2 weeks after my first post, my daughter came home from her work and asked me if she could borrow the health savings card and picked up her medication the next day. I said no, I would get it for her myself, as I usually do. She protested for a minute or so, but I was firm, and she left it at that. For the rest of the night, she was unusually quiet. She's usually quite talkative with her grandparents who live with us, or myself and her sister, but not that night. This was slightly concerning, but I didn't raise any questions. Fast forward to around midnight, my daughter came to me and spilled a lot of details about her drug past. It was a lot of information to take in at one time, and finally she got to the point that she relapsed and needed the health savings card to get detoxed. After my momentary shock passed, I told her that I loved her and that I would go with her to the detox center, and that she didn't need to hide things from me. I didn't tell her about how I found out that she's already in meetings, as I figured that could be my little secret, or it can emerge when the time is right. After that, she got detoxed and all was well for a while before she relapsed again. She was much more straightforward about it that time, and since that detox, everything has been going smooth. She is back into counseling and takes a 4-day-a-week class for getting her high school diploma. Today she's 30 days sober and is celebrating her sobriety/birthday with some friends. I appreciate every single comment. Thank you everyone for your kind words and advice. I feel good about the approach I took, although I would go back and change some things. She's getting the help that she needs, and we have a more open line of communication. She is more lively, is getting back into her passions, and is much, much happier. I'm still feeling guilty that I didn't pick up the signs of addiction soon enough, but she assured me that she has forgiven me and that I don't need to worry about it at all. Happy ending, and thank you everyone. In the comments, Independent says, "I remember your original post, and I'm so glad that you updated us. You're a very good father, your girls are lucky to have you. I'm wondering, what is your approach regarding their mother? Does she know about the drugs?" OP replies, "She isn't in the picture anymore. I don't even collect child support from her, so she is in the dark. The girls haven't talked to her in about a year or so I imagine the next time she talks to my daughter in question will decide whether or not she will tell her mother about this. Thank you for your kind words." And Fangs asks, "Do you mind me asking what it was that she was using?" And OP says, "Cocaine mostly, and a variety of other narcotics. According to her detox reports and drug tests, she never used heroin or anything stronger." Havana Hannah says, "A 16-year-old girl who travels cross-country, is gone for days and weeks, gets hooked up on hard drugs, has enough money to fund a cocaine habit? This is really dark. My first thought was, wow, that's wild. My second thoughts were much darker. Maybe she was trafficked, exploited, or groomed? Yeah, a teenage girl can get any drugs they want for free if they're willing to trade sex for it for grown adult men, and even easier if they can travel to different states around the country. Willing, in quotes, because it's disgusting abuse from these men. Opie alluded to having more than enough money to support his 3 daughters on his own without any contributions from his ex. If he's sending them to fancy private schools, then it may just be that she's surrounded by friends or other rich kids with sizable monthly allowances and inattentive parents. They can afford to finance their coke habits using their pocket change. I've seen it before. Also, the guys in the friend group may be the ones actually interacting with the dealers, and in turn, dealing to their classmates. It's still deeply problematic, but it's not selling sex to strange old men level. I went to fancy private schools. It wasn't a thing that everyone did, because more kids were focused on getting into Ivy League type schools. There was a lot of Adderall use. But there were definitely kids running around with coke at school if you knew where to look. SR4F says, okay, dude was nice about the rehab, but how the hell did it go this far? Like, okay, Opie was a single dad, but his parents also lived at home. There were 3 entire adults in this house. What the hell were they all doing that the 16-year-old could leave and travel halfway across the country and nobody noticed? Like, what even? He also casually mentioned in the comments that she got nosebleeds all the time, in the context of her not getting them anymore being a sign that she's clean. But she told him that it's just allergies, so he did nothing? I got nosebleeds a lot as a kid, and what my parents did was take me to a doctor to get it checked out. I got my adenoids removed and stuff like that. A 16-year-old going across the country without dad even realizing it, lying about a job, with what sounds like a pretty entrenched drug addiction? Not to pile on him when he's clearly down, but did he do any parenting at all? Yeah, that stuck out to me as well. I'm pretty lenient about it, but I would give her trust back. This isn't the parenting flex that he thinks it is. He should never let her travel so much alone in the first place at 16. 16's a good time to learn independence, for sure, but he is the parent, and he made it seem like he has no power as a father. Just because she has the money doesn't mean that he should have given her free rein of her comings and goings. She was younger than 16 when she traveled across the country. He said she'd gotten better this year. Not sure how a 14 to 15-year-old could get money to travel. Yeah, pretty grim story all around, that one, and I hope that it has kind of mellowed out now and he has sorted his shit out and realized that he needs to become a parent, but after such a long time not really parenting properly, I really doubt that. I just doubt that things have changed for the better, and, you know, that's life sometimes, unfortunately. Thanks for the story, OP, and I hope that you and your daughters are doing a lot better these days than you were at the time of this story. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Raccoon Weaver, and it's titled, How Do I Handle My Awful Sister-in-Law at My Boyfriend's Family Christmas? So my 31 female, boyfriend 30 male and I have been together for 3 years. We've gotten to know each other's families quite well as we live nearby and can visit often. I love my boyfriend's family, except his brother's 33 male, long-term girlfriend 33 female. Called her sister-in-law for simplicity in the title. Let's call my boyfriend James, his brother will be Mike, and his brother's girlfriend will be Kelly. Kelly and Mike have been dating for 5.5 years. I truly believe that she is well-intentioned, but oh my god, she is frickin' terrible to be around. I get along with almost everyone I meet, but being around her actively makes me feel like I'm losing brain cells. We are polar opposites, but that's not why she's terrible. She makes wildly inappropriate comments to everyone around her, has no sense of self-awareness, and thinks that the world owes her something. Kelly and Mike are not in a good financial position. Kelly's unable to work because of her traumatic childhood, and Mike works 50+ hours per week in construction. He busts his butt to provide for them, and she spends her days at the local bar with the local riffraff, and then complains about not being able to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home on several acres of land in our high cost of living state. For Christmas, my boyfriend's parents are hosting celebrations, and we're doing a small gift exchange with a max budget of $10 per person, and then everyone drew a name from a hat, and we get that person one gift of up to $50. Total spend is $100 each. So everyone gets one big gift and a couple of small things. At first, we had no budget, but Mike was concerned about being able to participate, so we set a budget, and James slipped Mike $200 so he wouldn't have to worry about it. It's not Secret Santa, so everyone knows who drew which name. James drew Kelly's name, and immediately she started sending him links to things that were $100 plus for him to get her. He reminded her of the budget that we set to benefit them, and she said, "You can afford it. These are the only things I want," and made it worse by saying, "Mike drew your name and we're getting you something nicer than $50. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she may not know that James gave Mike the $200 to help them out. She hounded James about it being unfair that they suffer while we have so much, so clearly he can afford to get her a nicer gift. Both James and I are very uncomfortable, but we've both worked hard for everything we have." She insulted him, called him greedy, told him that he's selfish and only cares about himself, and the fancy life that he lives with me, and that Mike and her resent him for abandoning them. James is the kind of person who would give his last dollar away, the shoes off his feet in a snowstorm, and who acts tough but is actually just a big softie. A lot of people take advantage of that, and he caved. He got her the fancy, over-budget gift. James and Mike's parents just kind of roll their eyes at her when she makes weird, inappropriate comments, and their mum has confided in me that she's happy at least James picked a normal one, and that she's glad that she doesn't have to take care of both of her sons into adulthood. They are completely unaware of what's happened behind the scenes between Kelly and James. I'm not afraid of confrontation, but I don't want to ruin Christmas by losing my shit at her. She's bound to say something or do something because she always does, and I really don't know if I can bite my tongue much longer. I am furious at her. I feel like I'm going to explode if she makes one offhanded comment or snide remark that I'm betting it'll only take 20 minutes for her to say something stupid. It's not about the gift. We don't care about the money. To me, this is icing on the cake of her already poor behavior. To James, it's just another thing that he wants to let slide because he loves his brother, and it makes Mike's life easier if Kelly is happy and is not complaining. How can I navigate this and stop her from taking advantage of James in the future? Talking to her rationally is futile. James did try that, and that's how we're here. In the comments, Jen5872 says, "Whenever she says something stupid, reply with a simple, 'What an odd thing to say,' and walk away. You can omit the odd part when it doesn't fit the statement." And OP replies, "An example of the things she says, my boyfriend has a cousin who had a car accident, and one of their legs has a severe burn scar on it that covers like half their leg. Cousin was wearing shorts when he first met Kelly. First words out of Kelly's mouth were, 'Whoa, what the fuck happened to your leg?' It's awful. I do like your suggestion. My facial expressions usually speak for me, but with how she spoke to James, I'm livid." Imagine how hard "what a weird thing to say to a person" would have hit there, though. OP replies, "It's true. Locked and loaded with this one for Christmas for sure." Did you mean to say that out loud? That sounded more like an inside thought. Kelly is unable to work because of her traumatic childhood is the biggest bullshittiest excuse I've ever heard. Right? I had a traumatic childhood too. I wish somebody had told me that I was exempt from work. I've foolishly been busting my ass for the last several decades. Honestly, I would have cut right in and said, "No, James and I are sticking to the budget, keep it up and you get nothing." OP says, "Their conversation happened over text message, so I didn't know until after it was said and done." Well, of course. She knew how to get him. It really is unfair to the rest of the family playing by the rules. Still not too late to return the gift. Gift giving has become on another level for some reason. It's too bad that she sucked the fun out of it by being greedy. Call Mike and tell him what she said. This, not telling him, doesn't sound long-term like it's protecting him or helping her. It sounds like it's just keeping the issue from him until they build up too big and come crashing down. I get that it's well-meaning, but he deserves to be able to make informed decisions, and the people who love him should want him to be able to make informed decisions. And OP replies, It's more of a concern that whatever we deal with over a couple of hours at family gatherings, he gets it 1,000 times worse at home. He has very little self-esteem, and she walks all over him and is absolutely cruel. James has talked to Mike about how she treats Mike, and he doesn't even try to defend it, just gets defeated and sad. He deserves better, but doesn't have the self-esteem to believe it for himself. What the hell? So yeah, Opie's okay buying presents for the abuser, but hey man, I don't know, let's not call out the abuse. Opie standing up for the victim, hell yeah, let's keep the cycle going. I think OP needs to stop enabling the abuser here. I think OP needs to have a bit more of a backbone and call that shit out and, air it out to the rest of the family. Stop allowing this to happen. James has talked to Mike about how she treats Mike, and he doesn't even try to defend it. You say he's deserved better, but doesn't have the self-esteem to do it for himself. What about you step up for him? You have the ability to help out here as well. Like, you're aware of what's going on, and I'm sure you have an idea of how to stop this. This could be the start of something beautiful that helps Mike out. Mike would very much appreciate it, I imagine, if you and James step up to the plate and fix this. Maybe with a bit more support, Mike will be able to defend himself and have some self-esteem. Or maybe not. Maybe he enjoys the abuse. Who knows? But I don't think sitting idly by and allowing it to continue without even offering to help is the solution here. Back up to the post, there is an edit. Thank you for all the comments. I'm going to push pause on this account until after the holidays, and will post an update if anything interesting happens. I've decided to go into this armed with a couple of quick and simple responses that people have suggested in here. My favorites are, wow, what an inappropriate comment, or I can't believe you said that out loud. James and I will chat too after the holidays. I agree that he needs to set better boundaries, but we can have that conversation privately after the chaos of Christmas. Happy holidays all. And now on to the update, 2 weeks later. Thank you to everyone who commented. This is a rather anticlimactic update. Christmas was actually lovely. Kelly behaved for the most part, though of course made a few left-field comments. Using mother-in-law and father-in-law for simplicity, but my boyfriend and I are not married. Here are some examples. Mother-in-law opened a gift. It was a turkey baster. Kelly exclaimed, "Whoa, father-in-law? Trying to get her pregnant again?" Mother-in-law and father-in-law are in their 70s. Awkward pause. Turns to me and James and goes, "Actually, I'm surprised it's not you." And on recommendation from Reddit, I laughingly responded, "What an uncomfortable thing to say." Kelly went on about how she expected after we took a 2-week vacation, we would be sharing a pregnancy announcement. I responded, "Well, that's kinda weird." I got James a gag gift that says some sexual innuendo on the butt of a pair of pants. Kelly kept making comments about, no one needs to know the details of your sex life, despite that the pants were a joke. This was repeated all night, but I just ignored it. Otherwise, we had a great time and a great family gathering. I wish I had something more exciting, but the answers I got helped me have a few responses in my arsenal to respond to her weird comments, and otherwise I ignored her. Thanks, Reddit. In the comments, ugh, I'm happy it wasn't a big to-do, but I would have run out of patience for this person on day one. Just reading your original post has me ready to ask to be your +1, so I could say the things that you feel like you can't get away with. I'm sorry this is a dynamic that you're currently stuck with. I hope James can have a conversation with Mike at some point, at least concerning the entitlement with a gift. That was wildly inappropriate and trashy. I hope the one-liners continue to serve you well in the future. I'd be tempted to start slipping Benadryl in her first drink of the night just to have a pleasant and relaxed holiday for once. Lol. Obviously, I don't recommend anyone ever actually do this, but it's fun to think about. And OP replies, James has given me permission to respond as I see fit. He also reinforced that she's the wacko, and he has my back if I need or want his support. The only reason I've stayed silent for so long is for the sake of peace with his family. But they're all on the same page. Why did father-in-law give mother-in-law a turkey baster? OP says, father-in-law gave it to her as a stocking stuffer. I don't necessarily agree with giving household tools as gifts, but she was excited about it as cooking and baking is a hobby of hers. Another commenter says, no one needs to know the details of your sex life, But I am going to loudly speculate about how much of it you had during a trip anyway. OP says, making artificial insemination jokes to a 70-year-old couple and your parents-in-law. Well, it sounds like you have a better outlook on the situation. That's good at least. Those "why did you say that" and "please explain your racist, sexist, etc." comment phrases work on people who have social awareness. I think you made the best of the situation over the holidays. This needs to be properly addressed with Mike though. We, or I if it's only from your boyfriend, love you dearly and want the best for you. I didn't really want to bring it up, but sister-in-law's comments are getting out of hand. I'm not sure if you told her. The money that I gave you before Christmas was supposed to make Christmas easier for all of us. She kept begging and insulting us, guilting us into spending even more than the budget we set on top of that we gave you already. Overspending a little is not the problem, but her attitude towards it is. We don't appreciate the snide remarks and hurtful comments. Maybe she's jealous of our life. We understand that it's hard for you guys, but we didn't deserve to be treated badly just because we don't struggle. Please have a proper conversation with her about how she talks to and about us. Next year, if she insists on only wanting stuff outside of the budget, we will opt to not give a gift at all. We hope you understand where we are coming from. It's just getting too much. Something like that. My husband, 32, is upset that I, 31, don't look more like a mum. Dan and I have been married for 3 years. 8 months ago, we welcomed our amazing son into the world. He was very much planned and wanted, and motherhood had been transformative for me. I was able to take 4.5 months maternity leave before going back to work. Without going into too many details, we both work white-collar jobs that require professional attire. A normal workday look for me is a skirt or pair of slacks, a silk blouse, pumps or boots depending on the weather, but always with a heel because I'm 5'0". Maybe a blazer if I have a big meeting. Dan wears a suit almost every day. I also style my hair and do some makeup for work every day. This is what I wore before our son was born and what I continue to wear. Dan and I are pretty even in sharing parenting duties. I tend to take mornings because I'm more of a morning person than Dan. A normal morning for me starts early. Short workout, shower, get baby up, get ready, get the baby ready, and baby off to Dan because the daycare is on Dan's way to work. I'm normally dressed at the tail end of this process, but I keep my robe over my clothes in case my son wants to give my outfit something to remember him by on our way out the door. For the last month or so, Dan has been more irritable than normal in the morning. There have been side comments if he gets up and I'm drying my hair or getting dressed. Basically, if I'm not 100% focused on my son in the AM. Our son is happy playing and supervised, so I just chalked it up to morning moodiness, but it's been getting worse. Last night, I brought it up in what I thought was a neutral, non-confrontational way. Basically, his answer was this. His mum was 100% a mum after her kids were born. She gained a fair amount of weight after she had kids, and she never tried to lose it. She wore sweatpants every day and works a job where she wears a uniform, so if she wasn't in her work uniform, she was in sweats and a t-shirt. She never did her hair or makeup. Her entire identity was being a mum, and she's shared with me how hard it was to watch her kids start their own lives. Dan thinks I don't care about our son as much as he does since I worked on losing the baby weight and still put effort into my appearance. I feel like keeping this part of my identity actually helps me be a better mother. I love my son, but I'm still me, and I still have the things I like to do. Dressing to match my identity actually helps me be a better mother. I love my son, but I'm still me, and I still have the things I like to do. Dressing well, blowing out my hair, and doing my makeup are therapeutic to me. Now that being said, my son is my life, and if I knew that not doing those things would guarantee him a happy life, I would stop immediately. I told Dan that my son and I have our morning routine, and he gets lots of time and attention before I go to the office. Dan said he wasn't looking to fight, but he just wanted me to think about my priorities and my time management. Is it normal for new mums to totally sacrifice all the things you like to do? Is this a sign of something deeper that I need to address with my husband? In the comments, SpludgyXX says, Why the hell does he care that much about your appearance if it doesn't actually directly affect your son's life? I'm with you on this one. If it doesn't make a difference on how your son is treated, why can't you treat yourself and do your makeup, etc.? It's not like you're spending all of that time ignoring your son. I don't really get why he equates how someone looks with how good of a mother they are. Even if his mom was how you described, there are so many others who are good mothers but also take care of themselves. If it's not affecting your son, I don't see why you would need to change what you're doing. OP replies, part of my job is sales and client service based. I feel like I have to look put together because that's what they expect. I didn't think that it impacted my parenting. MCQ76 says, he should stop projecting his views of motherhood and memories of his own mum onto you. It's inaccurate and just a little bit creepy. It sounds like you're spending time with your kids, so he has nothing to complain about. I can't even begin to attempt the amount of logical gymnastics that would get me to think that dressing like a slob means you somehow love your kid more. And OP replies, it's basically that any time I spend doing stuff for myself is time that our son isn't the center of attention. But I am paying attention to our son. He's never neglected. And if I had to choose between straightening my hair and making my son feel better, my son wins without a second thought. I think he's lying. I really just think he's lying about what he's saying here. The real reason is under the skin, and he can't even be honest with his wife about that. That's kind of pathetic. Either he's mentally ill and is just completely delusional to reality in front of him and has some weird dynamic going on with his mom, or he's hiding something and projecting onto OP. This is not a normal thing to be bringing up to your normal wife. I'd very much be having a lot more conversations with him about why he feels this way and where this is all coming from, because I don't like his reasoning. Oh, I want you to look like shit because you're only a good mother when you don't look after your appearance, like my mum did. Does he hear himself? Does he hear how demeaning and disrespectful that comes across as? Your husband thinks that because you take time to get ready every morning, you're not being as good as a mother as you could be because you're neglecting that. Why doesn't he get up and look after the son then, huh? Is he not taking part in the neglect of his child when he could be up at the same time as you looking after the child? No, of course not. He's perfect and you're not. That's exactly what's going on here. And now, onto the update 10 days later. I had no idea my post would get so much attention. There was a lot of really solid advice, and one creepy PM warning me that by dressing in business attire and wearing lipstick and heels, I was being overly sexual around my child, and that would turn my son into a serial killer. Stay gold, Reddit. A couple of clarifying points. My mother-in-law did work when my husband was growing up. She just didn't have an office job. She works in a medical field and wears scrubs every day. When she's not in scrubs, she's in sweatpants. Seriously. For our wedding, his family started a pool about whether or not she would wear sweats to the wedding. I didn't suddenly get sexy after my son was born. I was slightly overweight before my son was born, and I'm back to my pre-baby slightly overweight shape. Now the update. Dan and I went out without our son so we could talk. I told him that I was confused by his comment and I wanted to talk about it. I asked him if he could name specific things about the morning routine that made him feel as though our son was neglected. I offered to switch shifts, so to speak, if he thought that our son should have more AM parent time. To make a long and confusing conversation short, Dan is confused by the fact that I got over my postpartum depression and am back to normal now. For some context, my PPD never made me question whether or not I loved my son or made me feel like we never should have had him. My PPD made me feel like I was constantly failing my son, that I wasn't good enough to be his mum, and that he deserved better. There were a few times I broke down and started crying and would tell Dan that he was so much better at being a parent than I was, and that our son didn't deserve to have a shitty mum like me. Luckily, I have an amazing doctor who recognized that this wasn't just baby blues and helped me get the help that I needed. It could have been so much worse. Basically, Dan only felt like a good parent when I was failing and telling him that I was terrible at it. Now that I'm doing better, he no longer feels like a good dad. It's shitty, but we're starting couples counseling. I'm continuing with the counseling that I started for my PPD, and Dan is going to see someone too. We're going to figure it out, and I'm still going to wear heels to work, even though it's going to turn my son into an axe murderer. In the comments, CounterOK1531 says, "Wow, I thought that the update would be that the husband was trying to push OP into a stay-at-home mother role, or he was feeling insecure about OP looking good. Turns out there's a third option, trying to bring your partner down to make yourself feel like a better parent. Just wow. I thought that he was just a judgy asshole, but turns out it was worse. I mean, seriously, I liked our life so much better when you were dangerously depressed and hated yourself. It's really shitty that you got help, got emotionally healthy, and found a balance between being a good parent and taking care of yourself, all just to make me feel bad. What a tool. I honestly hope the counseling will help and that he can get a handle on his insecurities and realize that there are a lot of different ways to be a good parent, none of which revolve around the percentage of time that one spends wearing sweatpants." Well, he was a judgy asshole, but also insecure and manipulative. I really preferred it when my wife was cripplingly depressed because it made the bar lower for me. Maybe I can make her depressed again so I can feel superior. This woman is not nearly angry enough at her spouse. I'm shocked that he admitted it so readily. He could have easily kept covering his ass with the "I tried to marry my mum" shtick, but decided to bare his asshole with the naked truth. I mean, honestly, that's the only thing that gives me a bit of hope. He at least openly communicated it. It's a shitty thought process, but people get those. I hope the counseling works. There's been a lot of shitty spouses in this sub, but this motherfucker really said, "I'm mad that you got over your mental illness because your sobbing breakdowns made me feel like the better parent, so I tried to shove you back into your postpartum depression by saying that you were failing." That's not even touching that he specifically tried to make her spiral by saying she was neglecting her child, the exact thing that she had breakdowns over. This guy fucking sucks. I was already on team fuck this guy at the beginning, now I'm on team punch him in the dick. Is it a reasonable response? Well, it's 5 AM. It's as reasonable as I can manage. After 8 years since her last post, I truly hope for the best for OP and her son, but don't have the words or bandwidth to express how that fuckwad of a, hopefully, ex-husband makes me feel right now. Yeah, look, I understand that you guys can go to counseling over this one and, fix it if you want to. But I think it's important in situations like this not to look past that behavior of him. I don't think there's an excuse for any of that. I think there's explanations for it, but there's no excuses to be like, "Oh yeah, he was going through a hard time too. Why don't we think of him?" He was intentionally trying to punch her back into postpartum depression by using those insecurities that she shared with him against her. That's evil. That's just straight up, genuine evil, and if I was her friend in any way associated with her while these events were going down, I'd say, divorce him. I would have negative respect for that guy, and I would understand her if she wanted to fix things with him, but Christ almighty, I genuinely don't believe that is someone that you should maintain a partnership with. I feel like that is someone that has deeply betrayed you. Why would a loving partner ever do something like that to you? That's crazy. Genuine, evil craziness. Regardless, thank you for the story, OP. I hope you're divorced now. Our next post is by a deleted account, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to give my half-sister any of our grandmother's jewelry after they excluded me for years?" For context, I, 24 female, am the product of an affair. My father was married when I was born, and his marriage fell apart because of it. My dad eventually divorced his now ex-wife, and his 3 kids, my half-siblings, 32 female, 30 male, 28 male, have always resented me for it. I understand what happened between our parents was messy and destroyed their happy family, but I was just a baby, and they punished me for it my whole life. Growing up, they excluded me from everything. They didn't want me around, made cruel comments when I was, and acted like I didn't exist unless they were making me feel unwelcome. The worst part was when my mum passed away when I was 19, while I was mourning my mother's death, they openly celebrated. I found out they made jokes about how the trash took itself out and threw a party less than a month after the funeral to celebrate it. That broke me, and I've been no contact with them for years over it. Our shared grandmother wasn't much better. She wasn't outright cruel to me, but she clearly favored my half-siblings. They spent vacations and summers with her, while she barely acknowledged me. She also made it known on more than one occasion that she wanted her jewelry to go to my oldest half-sister, 32 female, when she passed away, as the oldest female grandchild in the family, since she never had any daughters of her own. It was well established to everyone that knew her that this was her intention. However, she didn't leave a notarized will, so legally, her estate went to my dad as her only child. To my shock, my dad gave me the entire jewelry collection. He said he regretted how I'd been treated by the family and wanted me to have something meaningful. It was the first time he had ever done something to truly acknowledge me, and I was floored. Now, my half-siblings are furious, especially my oldest half-sister. She's demanding I give her some of the jewelry, claiming that since she was closest to our grandmother and she'd always intended for her, sister, to have it, that it's unfair that I kept it all. She even said that I wasn't really a part of the family and has been calling me selfish and accusing me of stealing what was rightfully hers. I refused. I told her that after years of being treated like garbage, I'm not giving up the one thing that my dad has ever done to acknowledge me. She accused me of being bitter and petty, saying that I'm using this to punish them for things that happened years ago. I'll admit, part of me feels like I'm finally getting some sort of compensation for their horrible treatment of me, but the other part of me wonders if I'm being petty or cruel by keeping it all when the others were so much closer to her. So am I the asshole? Edit to add, some people making assumptions about my mother. She didn't know my father was married originally. They married after my father's divorce because at the time, my mother could not support the two of us by herself, and being an unmarried pregnant woman was a major cultural taboo for her. My father spent a majority of his time home, when he actually bothered to come at all, trying to make it up to his children/my half-siblings when it was his time with custody. As far as I'm aware, my mother never treated them poorly. They tended to ignore her, and she did the same when they were around our house. In the comments, the Supreme Admiral says, "Your dad is the asshole in every sense. He had the affair. They are right in being angry about that, even if it isn't fair to blame you. They should be doing more to blame him. Second, your dad has clearly done nothing to protect you from the consequences of his actions. If his family didn't want you around, then he never should have put you in a position to be abused by them. Again, they are rightfully angry. You should have gone your life with a minimum interaction with them, but he forced you to be around them until you were an adult who could legally cut contact without his say. Third, he should not have given you that jewelry. If his mother hated you, then it was a grave insult to her memory to gift you that stuff. They are again right to be angry. Not angry with you, but just to be angry. He created this drama, and now you're suffering the consequences. I should point out that gifting you jewelry is shitty to you, not just his family. Your life has been shit because of his mistakes. Does a bribe really fix that? Can he buy your love and forgiveness? That isn't compensation. He tossed you a hot potato drama bomb, and he should have effing known it. It's effing obvious. Not the asshole. Next time they ask, tell them, maybe you weren't actually close to Grandma enough for her to make a will. Maybe Grandma secretly loved me and told Dad to give me all the jewelry. Now stop bothering me, and then block them. I'd tell her right to her face that she's right, that I am bitter, petty, and punishing them. Then tell her that it's what they deserve after the way they treated you. Keep the jewelry. Why hang on to any of that stuff when Grandma was a little better than the asshole half-siblings? OP should get the jewelry appraised, sell it for the highest price possible, and then tell half-sister she's free to go back to buy it all. Yeah, I'm going with not the asshole for this one here, OP. I don't think there's anything you've done that is particularly bad here, but everyone else around you, surrounding you, has failed you. Your father most of all, because he didn't keep you from that household, but I still think that these 3 half-siblings of yours carry fault. They openly celebrated your mother's death and threw a party a month after the funeral. I don't think there's any way for them not to be assholes after that incident. I would be keeping that jewelry. I don't care if they think that you're bitter and petty. What they did is just so much worse than what you were doing to them by keeping this jewelry. I think it is compensation for their horrible treatment of you. You deserve that jewelry after all of that shit. And now, onto the update 4 days later. First, I want to thank everyone for the responses, advice, and support. I never expected this post to gain so much attention, and it's been overwhelming, but also incredibly validating to know that so many of you understand where I'm coming from. After reading through the comments and reflecting on everything, I decided to stand firm in my decision to keep the jewelry. This is the first meaningful gesture my dad has ever made towards me, and I'm not going to give it up, especially to people who have done nothing but make me feel like an outsider for my entire life. For greater clarification, the jewelry also represents a greater apology to me. No one had ever apologized for the treatment I faced throughout my entire childhood when I chose to cut them off. Not for the constant name-calling, not for the actual slurs they would regularly call me, not for the unwanted comments of my weight and how I was a pig just like my mother, none of it. Before, this is the only apology I have ever received, even tangentially relating to my childhood. And yes, I am very aware of how bitter I sound here. That said, I didn't want to completely close the door on reconciliation, so I reached out to my dad to discuss everything. I asked him why he gave me the jewelry and what he thought about the backlash from my half-siblings. He admitted that he regrets how he handled things during my childhood and feels that he prioritized his other kids at my expense. Giving me the jewelry was his way of trying to make amends, even if it's late. I also told him about how my half-siblings were treating me now and the things that they had said about my mum in the past. He was upset and said he would speak to them about their current behavior, though that wasn't my intention, and I doubt it will make much of a difference. As for my half-siblings, the situation has only escalated. My oldest half-sister, 32 female, sent a long message accusing me of being vindictive and selfish, still claiming that I'm taking the jewelry out of spite, which I suppose is partially true. She tried to guilt-trip me again by bringing up how close she was to our grandmother and how much she wanted these specific pieces to remember her by. I didn't respond, but I've saved the messages in case things get worse. Unexpectedly, my middle half-brother, 30 male, reached out privately. He admitted that he was wrong for how he treated me in the past and apologized. He said he doesn't care about the jewelry and just wants to move forward. I told him that I appreciated his apology, but I need time to process everything before I can even consider having a relationship with him. I'm still no contact with my oldest half-sister and youngest half-brother. At this point, I don't see that changing. To those wondering about the jewelry itself, I've decided to have some of the pieces appraised and restored. I plan to wear a few of them on special occasions and keep the rest stored safely. They hold sentimental value to me now, not because of my grandmother, but because they represent a step towards my dad finally seeing me as a part of the family, even if it's imperfect and overdue. That said, after speaking with my middle and half-brother, I've come to understand most of my half-sister's anger and attacks come from a place of grief. As such, I plan to give her my grandmother's favorite pair of earrings. She wore them constantly, and while I doubt my sister will have any gratitude towards me, I'm sure she'll appreciate the gesture nonetheless. Thanks again for all of the support. This whole situation has been messy, but I feel more confident in my decision now. If anything else significant happens, I'll update again. Edit to add, the comments have made me realize that I've probably been giving my sister too much benefit of the doubt. While I do want to return the earrings to her, I think I'll offer to let her buy them back instead. Though for the people concerned that letting her take them may incite her to sue me for the rest, I'll see how soon I can speak to a lawyer for a consultation. In the comments, Chaotic Good says, "Well, this won't end well for you, but go off, I guess. I don't think I would ever want to wear something that belonged to someone that hated me. Your dad giving it to you just means that you get to be the target, and you played right into it. I bet your dad got some money, so why didn't he give you that? No. He just took the inheritance from one child and gave it to another. Bad enough that he blew up their lives, but now he stole their inheritance too. Good luck. Hope the jewelry makes you think of your grandmother that didn't pay you dust every time you wear it." I feel bad for the OP, but at the same time, the father is a piece of shit. If the half-sister truly was as close to the grandma as she says, there were probably other ways for the father to make amends without giving away all the sentimental value jewelry. OP is a victim, but the father just cannot stop hurting people. Edit. I said this in some comments, but I also just want to note how messed up it is that the one time OP thinks their father acknowledged them and what they went through, it's with the jewelry of someone else who hated them. OP literally had to wait for someone to die to get recognition because the father was incapable or unwilling to do it of his own power. He didn't acknowledge OP. He basically outsourced that task to a dead person. Yeah, so many of the issues could have been resolved, or at least been handled better if the dad wasn't the biggest asshole. The fact he seems largely unscathed when he's to blame for everything makes me wonder if it was intentional. My husband doesn't see how his work wife is trying to destroy our marriage. I, 31 female, am at my wit's end with my husband's, 32 male, co-worker Sarah, 30 female, and his complete inability to see what is happening. I'm not usually one for Reddit, but I need to know if I'm going crazy here. Where do I even start? 3 years ago, my husband Mark started working with Sarah. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I invited her to our barbecues, included her in our group outings, and genuinely tried to be friendly. Big mistake. She spent the entire time making backhanded comments about everything from my career. Oh, you're just a yoga instructor? How peaceful. To my cooking. Well, I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. The real problem is that Mark thinks that she's just being funny. Last month, she literally threw away the anniversary mug that I gave him because it clashed with the office aesthetic. When I got upset, Mark said that I was being too sensitive and that Sarah just has high standards for office decor. It was a mug with our wedding photo on it. Some greatest hits from Sarah. She scheduled a mandatory work dinner on our anniversary. She convinced Mark not to take a promotion because it would mean working with a different team. She posts daily photos of them together with hashtags like #workpowercouple and #workspouse. She tells everyone at their office